Chapter 633. Who was Tang Li's fiancée on Celestial Mountain? She's your martial uncle Tsang Qiuzi's only daughter, Tsang Qiuying, Aunt Ru replied. Tsang Qiuying. Han Yunqing mused that she might as well call her Little Flightsong instead of Little Flightsong. Does that mean I can call her Daddy Big Flightsong now? Han Yunqing had never met Tsang Qiuzi before, but she had long hated the man who held Tianshan Kenzo's second-in-command. Last time, Duanmu Yao had tricked Long Feiyi away because of Tsang Qiuzi. Han Yunqing had always wanted to visit Celestial Mountain. Besides meeting Long Feiyi's master, her second priority was to settle accounts with Tsang Qiuzi. Who knew Tang Zijin would hook up with Tsang Qiuzi? Tang Li really should have run away from this marriage. She decided to help Tang Li run away wholeheartedly from now on. Tsang Qiuzi's daughter. Long Feiyi looked at Tang Zijin. The Tang clan has some skills. Tang Zijin couldn't understand Long Feiyi's anger. Fei, Tianshan Kenzo never knew about our friendship. Speaking up to here, he still paid attention to Han Yunqing and didn't tell her the truth. Neither he nor Aunt Ru knew how much Long Feiyi had told Han Yunqing about the Tang clan, but one thing was certain, Long Feiyi would never reveal his identity as East Qin's imperial heir. Until everything was set up, they could only bury it deep in their hearts. Once everything was ready, the secret would explode like a bolt of lightning, shaking the heavens and earth and shaking Celestial Mountain. Rather than betting everything on Kenzo, why don't we leave a way out for Tsang Qiuzi? Moreover, this Tsang Qiuying controls many businesses under Celestial Mountain's name. She's someone who can take care of business, Tang Zijin suggested. Although Tang Zijin does not know the real situation of the old man in Kenzo and the internal strife in Tianshan Kenzo, Long Feiyi is very clear. He is Kenzo's eldest disciple, and he might not be able to suppress Tianshan Kenzo. Furthermore, the Sword Sect Master's condition did not give him any guarantees. Because Tsang Qiuzi wasn't clear on the relationship between the Tang clan and the Duke of Qin's estate, Tang Zijin could use him to his advantage. Objectively speaking, Tang Zijin's actions were thorough and prudent. However, Long Feiyi could not accept Tang Zijin using Tang Li's marriage like this. If Tang Li married someone else, he might be able to cast her aside, but once he married Tsang Qiuzi's daughter, he'd be bound to her for the rest of his life. Tsang Qiuzi would never allow his daughter to suffer any grievances in the Tang clan. Fei, just where is Tang Li? Tang Zijin asked anxiously. A few days ago, Tsang Qiuzi sent a letter threatening the Tang clan. If they don't hand over Tang Li now, they'll have to bear the consequences. Long Feiyi's face was stiff as he remained silent. Han Yunqing felt a little uneasy. She'd seen Long Feiyi's ruthlessness before. If Tang Zijin could sacrifice his son's happiness like this, to say nothing of Long Feiyi. Tang Zijin's move was truly for Long Feiyi's sake. Long Feiyi's silence left Tang Zijin and Aunt Ru anxious on the sidelines. Fei, where is he? Aunt Ru's voice was filled with anger. Li can't hide from this for the rest of his life. If he comes back with me now and admits his wrongs and apologizes, Tsang Qiuzi might forgive him. If this drags on, he'll have no chance to turn back. Fei, you're not protecting him, but harming him. A complicated look flickered past Long Feiyi's eyes, but he remained silent. Han Yunqing looked at Tang Zijin and Aunt Ru's panicked expressions and wished she could give them a good scolding. If they'd done this earlier, why did they have to do this in the first place? To put it bluntly, Tang Li's current predicament was all their fault. Long Feiyi and Tang Li didn't care about his fiancée's origins, so they'd kept it a secret until now. Now that they'd gotten into trouble with Celestial Mountain and were in the wrong, things were going to be difficult. Tang Zijin couldn't wait any longer and said coldly, if you won't tell us, old man will look for him himself. As soon as he spoke, Aunt Ru moved even faster. She rushed out the side door and headed for the rear courtyard as if she could find Tang Li if she went faster. Tang Zijin wouldn't go so far as to let the servants search, but he and Aunt Ru dared to look for him on their own. Long Feiyi didn't stop them, but glanced at Han Yunqing before sitting down. Trouble? Han Yunqing understood. Long Feiyi nodded. Of all times, they had to provoke Zhang Qiuzi at a time like this. Last time, Duanmu Yao had invited Zhang Qiuzi to trick him. This time, she'd used Celestial Mountain's name to assassinate the Chu clan. This proved that Duanmu Yao and Zhang Qiuzi were close. Last time, he'd sent Tang Li to Celestial Mountain without finding anything. Still, he had to be on guard. The situation in the western regions hadn't stabilized yet. He could have just stood by and watched while Celestial Mountain attacked Ningcheng, but Tang Zijin had brought trouble to his doorstep. After a period of silence, Long Feiyi summoned Chu Shifeng. "How's Empress Shue's case?" he asked cold. Duanmu Yao was invited to the Chu clan barracks yesterday to personally investigate the assassination. "She hasn't found any details yet," Chu Shifeng replied. "Just her alone?" Long Feiyi asked. "No, she brought a bunch of Celestial Mountain swordsmen with her." "It was quite a show of extravagance," Chu Shifeng replied. Master and servant chatted for a while before Tang Zijin and Aunt Ru returned. Chu Shifeng tactfully withdrew to one side. Seeing Tang Zijin and Aunt Ru's expressions, Han Yunqing knew that they hadn't found anything. Before Tang Zijin could ask, Long Feiyi spoke up first. "I already said he wasn't with your lordship. It's up to you to believe it or not. If you can't find him, then your lordship can't show up for Celestial Mountain's troubles. The Tang clan can do whatever it wants." Aunt Ru's face was full of disbelief, but Tang Zijin was much calmer. He stopped her with a look. "Fei, this matter concerns the safety of the Tang clan. It's not impossible that Zhang Qiuzi would use the Tang clan's annulment as an excuse to kill his way here. If you see Tang Li, please bring him back. Count it as uncle begging you for help." "All right." Long Feiyi agreed easily. Tang Zijin patted Long Feiyi on the shoulder, looking very trusting. He asked a few more questions about his current situation before leaving. Aunt Ru's unwillingness was written all over her face. Before she left, she even gave Han Yunqing a look. Han Yunqing didn't avoid her gaze, but met her gaze. Perhaps out of guilt or embarrassment, Aunt Ru immediately averted her gaze. After they left, Han Yunqing and Chu Shifeng grew anxious. "What do we do? Should we work together with Tang Li?" "Your Highness, young Master Tang's wedding, it really isn't good to drag things out any longer." Long Feiyi couldn't think of any good ideas, but he was certain of one thing: he'd never let Tang Li become Zhang Qiuzi's son-in-law. "It looks like we'll have to put pressure on Empress Shui," he intoned. This was a temporary measure. Duanmu Yao had used Celestial Mountain's name to infiltrate the Chu clan's barracks because of Zhang Qiuzi's support. If they wanted to divert Zhang Qiuzi's attention, that was the only way. "This subordinate understands. This subordinate will follow up." Chu Shifeng immediately withdrew. Han Yunqing wanted to find Tang Li, but Tang Li wasn't hiding in the courtyard at all. Instead, he'd listened to Long Feiyi's words and fled. Actually, Tang Li dearly wanted to hide, but he understood Tang Zijin and Aunt Ru better than Long Fei. He was certain that the two old men would search the estate first, but if they couldn't find anything, they'd send men to surround the area within 100 li radius and search every inch of it. Therefore, he had to hurry and escape 100 miles away before they carried out a carpet search. Only then would he be safe. Currently, he'd just avoided the Tang clan and didn't even dare to ride a horse. Instead, he was walking along the grass by the side of the road. It was spring now, so the vegetation wasn't flourishing enough to hide him. All around him was flat ground, so there was no place for him to stay. The only thing he could do was run forward and find a place to hide. He had no idea when his pursuers would show up, but only regretted going in this direction. Tang Li used his lightness techniques to run until he saw a carriage approaching from the distance. "Help!" Tang Li cried out in alarm. He flipped over and landed in front of the carriage to block its path. The carriage hastily pulled the reins to a stop. Tang Li's immortal-like white robes made him look nothing like a bandit. "Who are you? What do you want?" the driver demanded angrily. "This big brother, this one is a disciple of Shuangqing Mountain. Unfortunately, my horse fell ill and died along the way. This road is long and there are no villages or shops in front of me. This one has been walking for more than half a day, so I stopped you to ask for help. If I offended you, please forgive me. Shuangqing Mountain is just in front of us. We can reach there in half a day. This one is willing to pay for the carriage." Tang Li finally stopped ruining his image. He was dressed in a white robe and his hair was tied up with a jade hairpin. He was polite and elegant. He looked up after he finished speaking. At that moment, the person in the carriage lifted the curtain and looked over. He was as handsome as an immortal. What Tang Li saw was a woman dressed as a man. Her hair was tied up neatly. Her facial features were very distinct and her figure was thin. Although she was dressed as a man, it was easy to tell that she was a woman. This was because she didn't dress as a man to hide her gender. She liked the simplicity of men's clothing and didn't like the complexity and restrictions of women's clothing. Although she was young, her gaze was very calm. She looked exceptionally calm and capable. However, when she looked at Tang Li, her eyes were a little blurred. She revealed an unprecedented girlish look. Although she was stronger than men, she liked handsome men since she was young. What she disliked the most were talkative and cheap men. Soon, the girlish look in her eyes disappeared. Before Tang Li could speak, she spoke first and interrogated, "What's your name?" Tang Li hated tomboyish women like her the most, so he couldn't figure out how Long Fei had fallen for Han Yunqing's hands. He always felt that women were more like little birds and lovebirds. However, in order to get a ride and hide, he continued to pretend. He answered politely, "This one's surname is Chang." "My name is Li, Chang Li." "Chang Li, Chang Li, Chang Li." The woman muttered to herself. Finally, she commented, "This name is not good. It's too sad." Tang Li chuckled. This laugh was just right. It was romantic but not pompous or vulgar. It was especially charming. The woman was once again mesmerized. She asked, "What are you laughing at?" All meetings are long separations. Today's coincidental meeting is fate. After this farewell, we may not meet again in this life. It's a long separation. Miss, goodbye. After Tang Li finished speaking, he pretended to bow with his hands clasped in front. He looked free and easy. He hadn't taken a few steps when the woman called out to him, "Wait, don't you want a ride? Come up. I'll give you a ride. Then we won't be separated forever." Chapter 634. She's actually taking the initiative to invite me up. Tang Li's heart was wild with joy, but he still tried his best to maintain his calm and collected demeanor. He clasped his hands and said mildly, "A chance encounter is fate. Then this one will leave it to fate." "Come on up," the woman said warmly. The coachman's lips twitched disdainfully. This guy was just trying to hitch a ride, but now he's leaving it to fate. He's just a sanctimonious swindler. The coachman didn't dare to speak, because his young miss had set a rule that he could only answer questions when asked. Otherwise, he had no right to speak of his own accord. The young miss was a shrewd businesswoman who liked refined, and handsome men, especially those who cultivated the Tao. Encountering such a man would make her a little foolish. The coachman had no choice but to continue on his way without a word. Tang Li sat in the carriage and calmed his restless heart. It was better to hide in a carriage than to run around on his own. They were heading in the direction of Long Fei Ye's side courtyard, which was the opposite of the direction he'd fled in. As the saying went, the most dangerous place was also the safest place. Father and Aunt Ru would never guess that he'd turn back so soon after escaping. Tang Li was lost in his own world while the woman leaned lazily against the seat, one hand propping up her head as she studied him with interest. This man was thin and handsome, his robes whiter than snow and his hair as black as ink. He was like an ink painting in front of her eyes, one black and one white, forming a world of their own. The woman had seen many similar men before, but she fell in love with this one at first sight. She liked him very much. Ever since she'd come of age, her eldest brother had urged her to marry repeatedly. He wanted to use marriage as a way to increase the family's strength, but she'd always used all sorts of excuses to delay. Now that her eldest brother was in trouble, he urged her even harder. If she could bring this man back and marry into her family, that would be a good idea. Mount Shuangqing was a place for cultivators. Although it wasn't a major power, it had great influence and had a large number of followers in Cloud Realm continent. Sir Changli, are you going back to Mount Shuangqing? The woman asked. Only then did Tang Li recover his wits and lie at his fingertips. Exactly. If you follow this path, you'll reach the foot of Mount Shuangqing in about half a day. Which master of Shuangqing Mountain is young Master Changli's disciple? The woman asked. Long Fei Ye's residence was at the foot of Shuangqing Mountain. Tang Li knew a little about it, so he replied, I am the eldest disciple of the Sky Mystic Master of the Qingyun Palace on Shuangqing Mountain. The woman was overjoyed. There were 3 great palaces on Shuangqing Mountain. Among them, the Azure Cloud Palace was the main palace. The Sky Xian Master's reputation and prestige were the greatest. His eldest disciple could also be considered a character. She nodded in satisfaction and waited for Tang Li to ask her name and identity. But to his surprise, Tang Li did not ask anything. Instead, he closed his eyes and sat there quietly. His hands were placed on his dantian, as if he was meditating and cultivating. If Han Yunqing saw how quiet Tang Li was, she would definitely think that he had been poisoned and turned mute. As the woman watched, she liked him more and more. She wondered if she should go up the mountain with young Master Changli and directly meet with the Sky Xian Master to discuss the matter of marrying into the family. Although Shuangqing Mountain was quite famous, in terms of strength, it was not on the same level as her family. She was confident that she could suppress the Sky Xian Master and make him agree to marry young Master Changli to her. She decided to settle the marriage herself and then go back to inform her big brother. It would be best if she could cook the rice. When the time came, no matter how angry or dissatisfied her big brother was, he would not be able to do anything to her. She knew that if her big brother had the power to decide on her marriage, he would definitely find her a husband's family that was on par with her family's. In this way, she would not be able to find a husband and could only get married. Once she married into a large family, many things would be out of her control. Thinking of this, and looking at the very satisfied young Master Changxian in front of her, the woman secretly made up her mind. In the next few days, she would definitely settle the matter of her marriage. She thought that as long as it was the type she liked, after marriage, as long as there was time, she would be happy to slowly cultivate feelings for him. The carriage continued to move forward. The Tang sect seemed to be sitting quietly, but in reality, they were paying attention to the movements around them. He had to be on guard against running into people from the Tang family. He did not know that the woman in the carriage had an extraordinary identity. He also did not know that the carriage did not follow the original path, but instead avoided the main road and took a secluded path. Therefore, he did not have the chance to run into anyone from the Tang family. At this time, not only were the people from the Tang family looking for him, even Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing were looking for him. Tang Li was not an idiot. He could tell that the woman in the carriage was not simple. Therefore, he was very quiet the whole way. When it came to lying, the more you said, the more mistakes you made. Half a day was still very long. Tang Li secretly opened his eyes several times to look at the woman, only to see her lazily leaning against a high pillow to take a nap. Although she was dressed as a man, she looked like a high and mighty queen, arrogance and haughtiness written between her brows. Tang Li thought, whoever marries this kind of woman will be unlucky. The woman suddenly opened her eyes, took out a clean handkerchief from the side of the luggage, and moved closer to Tang Li. Although this woman was dressed as a man, her languid and lazy posture as she slowly moved closer had a different kind of charm. Tang Li secretly looked at her, like an old monk in meditation, indifferent. Unexpectedly, this woman actually held on to Tang Li's shoulder with one hand, and used the handkerchief to stroke Tang Li's face with the other hand. Tang Li smelled a faint fragrance. He became alert, hurriedly opened his eyes, and retreated. After confirming that there was no big problem with the fragrance of the handkerchief, he pretended to be frightened. "Miss," the woman burst into laughter. "Young master, what are you afraid of? I just saw that you were sweating profusely and that you were meditating, so I wanted to wipe your sweat for you." She really gently wiped Tang Li's sweat. Tang Li hurriedly stopped her. Many thanks, miss. I can do it myself." The woman didn't force it. After giving the handkerchief to Tang Li, she retreated to her seat. Tang Li awkwardly wiped his sweat. No matter how he looked at it, he looked like a tender and shy little fresh meat. However, his heart was full of disdain. He, young Master Tang, had never lacked women. This kind of woman who threw herself at him was the most disdainful. He didn't even care about the handkerchief in his hand. After wiping his sweat twice, he returned it. However, he didn't know that the fragrance of the handkerchief mixed with sweat would become a strong aphrodisiac. In a short time, it would seep into the human body through the skin. After wiping his sweat, the two returned to silence. They didn't speak for the rest of the journey. Time passed, and the carriage finally slowly came to a stop. Tang Li and the woman opened their eyes almost at the same time. They were just pretending to sleep. "We're here." The woman smiled. "Many thanks, miss. I'll take my leave now. If fate wills it, see you again," Tang Li said and got off the carriage. The woman didn't stop him. However, Tang Li felt that something was wrong the moment he got off the carriage. This was the southern foot of Shuangqing Mountain. If he had followed the road just now, he would have arrived at the northern foot of Shuangqing Mountain. "You took a turn?" he asked the driver. "Young master, if you want to return to Mount Qingyun, you can go up from here." The driver didn't want to waste words with him. He and the young miss had secretly passed through Yaoshui Commandery and were heading to Fenglin Commandery. Their identities and whereabouts couldn't be exposed. How could they take the main road? Tang Li increasingly felt that these two people weren't simple, but he couldn't be bothered to care so much. On the other hand, he could reach Long Fei Ye's residence by climbing over the mountain. His father and Aunt Ru definitely wouldn't turn back to look for them. Seeing the woman get off the carriage, Tang Li smiled and politely bowed. "Many thanks. I'll take my leave now." The woman graciously bowed to Tang Li. Her elegance didn't lose out to his. Just like that, Tang Li went up the mountain while the woman got on the carriage and continued to go around the mountain. However, not long after, the woman jumped off the carriage and secretly followed Tang Li up the mountain. The sun set in the west and the mountain forest began to darken. Tang Li was in a good mood. His footsteps were light and light. He shuttled through the mountain forest and even hummed a little tune. Unexpectedly, a large net suddenly fell from above. Tang Li was shocked, but he didn't struggle. He knew very well that this net wasn't an ordinary net, but a hidden weapon of the Tang sect. If he didn't struggle, there was still hope for him to escape. Once he struggled, there was basically no way out. He didn't panic. His movements were strange. Not long after, he really did escape the large net. However, who knew that there was another net behind the large net? Before Tang Li could react, a figure suddenly flew out from the side and fiercely knocked Tang Li away. Tang Li rolled a few times on the ground and finally stopped. It was obvious that the force just now was very strong. He looked carefully and found that the person who saved him was the woman in the carriage. Didn't this woman leave? Could it be that she was following him? "Why aren't you leaving? You're being followed. They're people from the Tang sect. Do they want to kill you? The woman asked as she pulled Tang Li's arm. She was so strong that she could dislocate his arm. At this time, several masters emerged from the forest. They were all dressed in black and had no weapons on their faces. However, Tang Li knew that they were hiding the world's most powerful weapons, the Tang sect's hidden weapons. Damn it! He had escaped to this place, but he was still caught. Tang Li knew that his wisest choice was to push this woman out as a shield to buy himself time to escape. These people from the Tang sect were not here to kill or hurt him. They just wanted to capture him. If he pushed this woman out, she would at most be injured. Thinking of this, Tang Li was about to make a move. Unexpectedly, the woman suddenly knocked him away. Be careful. A hidden weapon passed through the two of them. Tang Li finally changed his mind. He grabbed the woman's hand and said, "Let's go." Seeing that there were hidden weapons constantly flying at them from behind, Tang Li simply pulled the woman into his arms and hugged her tightly to protect her. He almost used all his strength to escape and ensure that the woman was unharmed. When they stopped, the sky was completely dark. Tang Li found a cave. After letting go of the woman, he leaned against the wall to rest, panting. In the darkness, the woman looked at his side profile. She was very stunned. She did not expect this immortal-like young master to be so powerful in martial arts. She also did not expect him to have such a masculine side. The woman was mesmerized. Unlike before, this time, she did not have any plans in her mind. She just looked and smiled. At this time, Tang Li did not have time to pay attention to the woman because he realized that there was something wrong with his body. Chapter 635. It was late at night. Tang Li and the woman stood at the entrance of the cave. Under the moonlight, they could only see each other's blurry faces. Tang Li's breathing became heavier and heavier. He could clearly feel a wave of heat rising from his lower body, confusing his thoughts. Although he had never experienced it before, he understood this feeling. He seemed to have thought of something and suddenly glared at the woman beside him. The woman was looking at him in a daze. She was startled and subconsciously stepped back. She was frightened because she felt guilty. She was the one who drugged him with the aphrodisiac. She was well aware of his anger. However, what she was afraid of was not his anger, but what was about to happen. She only bet her happiness on her family. As long as she could stay in the family for the rest of her life and manage the family affairs, she would be happy. As for the rest, no matter who she married or who she took in a husband, it was not that important. Therefore, it was the same who she gave her body to. However, she was still inexperienced and would be afraid in the end. Tang Li glared at her for a long time. The heat rising from his lower body became more and more obvious. He was finally sure that he had been drugged. The people of the Tang sect would never dare and would never do such a dirty thing to him. Therefore, it could only be this woman in front of him. There must be something wrong with the handkerchief. Bitch! Tang Li suddenly grabbed the woman's shoulder and threw her out. Get out! Get out of my sight right now! The woman stumbled a few steps and fell to the ground. She looked at the furious Tang Li and a complicated look flashed in her eyes. There seemed to be a little regret. However, she quickly stood up and walked towards Tang Li step by step. Before she met her brother, she must cook the rice. First, she must take this man and then go up the mountain to propose marriage tomorrow morning. In this way, no one could interfere with her marriage. The more she walked, the more determined her eyes became. She must take this man. Tang Li saw her coming over and became even angrier. He immediately shot out several hidden needles. Unexpectedly, the woman dodged them all. One must know that the hidden weapons used by the young master of the Tang sect were extraordinary. It was not that this woman's kung fu was better than Tang Li's, but because Tang Li was under the influence of the drug, he almost could not control himself, let alone shoot the concealed weapon accurately. Bitch! Scram! I'm warning you, if you dare to take another step forward, this young master will make sure you die without a complete corpse. A woman like you disgusts me. Tang Li cursed angrily as he continued to shoot out the hidden needles. He tried very hard to ignore the burning sensation in his lower body, but the burning sensation was on the verge of bursting out. He was already sweating all over and was extremely anxious. He shot countless needles, but none of them hit their mark. Looking at the woman who was walking towards him step by step, he had the urge to pounce on her. Damn it! Tang Li's body was burning with desire, but the woman was indifferent. She stood still in front of him. Scram! Tang Li wanted to hit her with his palm, but at this moment, he realized that his power had been restrained and could not be released at all. He hit the woman's shoulder with his palm, but it was only a normal force. To a martial arts practitioner like the woman, it was not painful at all. His slender fingers clenched tightly onto the woman's clothes. You want to be cheap so much, huh? His tone was full of disdain and sarcasm, as if he was about to throw her into the mud. However, the woman did not care. She tilted her head and looked at Tang Li's hand that was grabbing her clothes. Her gaze moved down and landed on the obvious reaction below his abdomen. Same here, same here. Tang Li flew into a rage out of humiliation. He let go of her clothes and suddenly grabbed her neck. He already had a murderous intent in his heart. However, when his hand touched her cold skin, he actually trembled all over. A scorching heat suddenly rushed up from below his body, burning every inch of his skin and his rationality. He could not continue to strangle her, let alone let go. He actually greedily stroked her jade-like neck. The woman was still calm at first, but as Tang Li's hand moved step by step towards her neckline, she could no longer remain calm. She was scared. She subconsciously pulled his hand and stopped him. At the same time, her actions pulled Tang Li back to the brink of reason. Tang Li was shocked by his own action just now. He was even more furious at the woman's audacity. He hurriedly let go of her and roared, "Scram if you don't want to die." Scram! He had just returned to the edge of rationality. He could not control himself at all. The power that had accumulated in his abdomen could not wait to burst out immediately and let him gallop freely. If the woman did not leave, he did not know what he would do. Unexpectedly, not only did the woman not leave, she threw herself into his arms. She suddenly pressed herself against him and hugged him tightly. "I want you." Tang Li wanted to push her away, but he could not control himself and fiercely pushed her against the stone wall. He could not wait to press himself against her, trapping her between the stone wall and his body. "Woman, who are you?" he asked angrily. He seemed to be rational, but his body was unconsciously pressing against her. He pressed himself against her tightly as if he wanted to find some release. "You'll know very soon." The woman looked calm, but her heart was more or less in a mess. At this moment, she truly felt the horror of the man rubbing against her body. She had an indescribable feeling. She felt that she could not control herself, but she did not know what she could not control. She felt that she seemed to be yearning for something, but she could not explain it clearly. In short, she felt uncomfortable, but it was not that she was uncomfortable. She had always followed her heart and did whatever she wanted. She was already determined to have this man, so she threw caution to the wind and followed her body's most instinctive reaction. She boldly wrapped her arms around his waist and gently arched her body to accommodate him. Tang Li did not expect this woman to do this. "You deserve to die." He wanted to pull her away, but when he held her hand, the cold touch was like the medicine he still longed for. He could not control himself and stroked along her wide sleeves, greedily looking for comfort. She was touched until her mind rippled and she got closer and closer to him. Just like this, the thunder stirred up the fire and dry wood met the fire. He tore off his clothes, but she didn't back down. She undid his belt. After removing the barrier, they both took what they wanted from each other. He didn't take pity on her and pushed her to the ground. She wasn't gentle at all as she pushed him down. They were both inexperienced people who followed the most primitive desires. They were clumsy and inexperienced, but they were passionate and intense. Her demands and accommodations, his galloping and release, in this cave, the rhythm was the most urgent. The moonlight was so embarrassed that it hid in the clouds. The night passed very quickly. When the sun shone on the next day, Tang Li slowly opened his eyes and found that he was naked. He also saw a woman lying next to him, who was also naked. He was stunned. Last night's scene flooded into his mind. He was only drugged with aphrodisiac and did not lose his memory. He remembered every detail of last night clearly. He never thought that he would be drugged by a woman. This was simply a great humiliation. How could this be tolerated? If this matter was spread out, how could he, Tang Li, establish himself in the Jianghu? How could he still have the face to live? Damn it! He wanted to kill this woman. He was so angry that he raised his hand to slap her. However, when he was about to hit her, he suddenly saw that the clothes under the woman's body were stained with blood. It was actually her first time. Tang Li was in disbelief. He could not understand why this woman would do this. He told himself that it would not be too late to kill her after he figured it out. Tang Li found some clothes and put them on. He did not wake the woman up. Instead, he threw all her clothes far away. Then, he sat at the side with his back facing her and waited for her to wake up. He waited for a long time, but the woman did not wake up. He turned around and found that the woman's naked back was full of marks left by him last night. There were bruises and it was enough to show how much of a beast he was last night. A complicated look flashed past Tang Li's eyes. He turned his head to look elsewhere. However, not long after, he looked back again. His gaze followed the woman's beautiful back all the way down, almost sizing her up. He had to admit that this cross-dressing woman was very beautiful. He had tasted it before and wanted more. As he looked, he suddenly wanted to look in front of her to see if he had left a mark that belonged to him. Although he was drugged, it was undeniable that this was the first woman he had ever had in his life. At this time, the woman seemed to be about to wake up. Her fingers moved gently. Tang Li actually panicked. He did not know why he panicked. He turned around and ran away. He had already walked far away, but he turned back and picked up all the clothes that he had thrown around. He put them beside her and then ran away in a panic. Didn't he want to kill her? Why did he run away? He was probably the only one who knew. The woman woke up quickly. She wanted to get up, but her body ached the moment she moved, especially her waist. She remembered that she had only given that man a small dose of aphrodisiac. The drug was not very strong. Why was he so scary? She could not even remember how many times that man had done it with her last night. Why did she feel like she was being bullied even though she was the one who had drugged him? Thinking of this, her ears actually heated up. She felt like she was on fire. Right, where was he? There was no one around. The woman hurriedly got up and forgot about the pain. She hurriedly put on her clothes and looked around, but there was no one around. You want to leave after you've had your fun? Impossible. She looked up and said coldly, you want to run away after seeing me, Ouyang Ningjing? I won't let you off so easily. Changli, right? You're already mine. Just you wait. The woman could be said to be domineering. She tidied her messy hair and went to the Qingyun Palace at the top of the mountain. However, she was told that there was no disciple named Changli in the Qingyun Palace. Moreover, Master Xiantian of the Qingyun Palace had been in seclusion recently. No disciple was allowed to go down the mountain. She was smart and immediately understood what was going on. She hurriedly went down the mountain and found the hidden needle that Tang Li had shot last night at the entrance of the cave. She ordered the servants to investigate immediately. Liar! She was angry and regretful. She hated herself for being seduced by that man last night and being too impulsive. God knew who that man was. How dare he lie to her? When she found him, she would definitely teach him a lesson. At this time, Tang Li had already turned over to Long Fei Ye's side courtyard. He was in a sorry state and did not dare to enter the door. Instead, he secretly climbed over the wall. Unfortunately, he was caught red-handed by Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing. Han Yunqing looked at him suspiciously and asked, "Tang Li, why are your clothes torn?" Chapter 636. His clothes were torn. Tang Li was in a hurry to put on his clothes, so he did not notice that his clothes were torn. He looked down and realized that they were really torn. Han Yunqing's bright eyes darted around as she looked at him with interest. Tang Li felt guilty. He covered his torn collar and said calmly, "I'm tired. I'm going to rest." "Tang Li, your clothes were torn, right?" Han Yunqing asked suspiciously. What happened to this guy when he was running away for a day and a night? How could his clothes be torn? Tang Li usually lied without blushing, but this time, he was extremely guilty. He even stuttered, don't mention it. I was caught by the Tang sect. They wouldn't let me go. I almost took off my clothes and gave them to them. Luckily, I was smart and ran away quickly." Oh, Han Yunqing's tone was full of meaning. Tang Li knew that she did not believe him. He was too lazy to argue with her and wanted to leave in a hurry. Unexpectedly, Long Fei Yi said, "Where are your shoes?" Tang Li ran away in a hurry and did not realize that he was barefoot. He stuttered even more when he faced Long Fei Yi. "What's going on?" Long Fei Yi said sternly like a strict brother. Tang Li would rather die than tell him the truth. It would hurt his pride as a man. It would ruin his image. How could he marry a wife in the future? Although he was full of resentment, he suddenly did not understand why he ran back and did not kill that woman. I even took off my shoes and gave them to them." Tang Li stammered. He was afraid that Long Fei Yi would notice his strange behavior, so he pretended to be out of breath and could not speak. He quickly changed the topic. "Brother. My father is serious this time. You have to save me." Long Fei Yi knew that Tang Li was lying, but he was too lazy to investigate why he looked like this. Coldly, he asked, "Do you know who your fiancée is?" "No matter who she is, Before Tang Li could finish, Long Fei Yi cut in cold. Zhang Qiuzi's daughter, Zhang Qiuying. Tang Li was stunned. Although the people on Tianshan Mountain did not know about the relationship between the Tang sect and Long Fei Yi, he had gone to Tianshan Mountain several times on behalf of Long Fei Yi. Under the arrangements of Long Fei Ye's confidants, he had secretly inquired about the old man in Kenzhou. He knew both Zhang Qiuzi and Zhang Qiuying. Has my father gone mad? Tang Li grew serious. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing would never tell Tang Li about Tang Zijin's motives. In his panic, Tang Li didn't think much of it and only assumed that his father was causing more trouble for Long Fei Yi. Tianshan Mountain was already in enough trouble with Duan Muyao, but now the Tang clan had provoked them as well. It was a complete mess. Zhang Qiuzi was a man who haggled over every detail and was even shrewder than a businessman. He must have a motive for allying himself with the Tang clan, so he would never allow them to break off the engagement. Even if he did, he would still reap some benefits from the Tang clan. Otherwise, he wouldn't leave the matter at that. No wonder I ran into such a strong ambush when I was running away. Tang Li muttered to himself. Zhang Qiuzi is pressing you very hard. Be careful these days and don't let your father catch you, Long Fei Yi said. I know. Tang Li was serious as well. But 5 days later, a piece of news shook Cloud Realm continent and pushed Tang Li into the eye of the storm. He couldn't even hide from it. The news was that the Ouyang Trade Consortium's executive chairman, Ouyang Ningjing, had been defiled by the eldest young master of the Tang clan, Tang Li. The Ouyang Trade Consortium had sent a large group of people to block the Tang clan's gates and demanded that they hand over Tang Li. Tang Li would either marry into the Ouyang Trade Consortium or die. It was obvious that Ouyang Ningjing had used those needles to find out Tang Li's identity. Only eldest young master Tang of the Tang clan could possess such weapons and an extraordinary aura like a white-robed immortal. As soon as Han Yunqing heard this, she recalled Tang Li's disheveled state when he came back that day and broke out in cold sweat. She knew that there was an 80 to 90% chance that the rumors were true. Tang Li was perfectly fine all of a sudden, so why did he do something so stupid? No matter how romantic or lecherous he was, he couldn't do anything to Ouyang Ningjing. After all, Ouyang Ningjing was a member of the Di clan's Ning clan and Ning Chang's little sister. Tang Li's ability to stir up trouble was no less than his father's. Han Yunqing immediately rushed to Tang Li's courtyard, only to see that Long Fei Yi had long arrived and was interrogating Tang Li. "Are you going to talk or not?" Long Fei Yi asked coldly. Tang Li remained silent. "Fine, you deal with it yourself. Scram back to the Tang clan immediately." Long Fei Yi was furious. Neither the Ning clan nor Celestial Mountain knew the true relationship between the Tang clan and Long Fei Yi. They only knew that Tang Li and Long Fei Yi were friends. For now, it didn't seem like it would affect Long Fei directly. But as the older brother, how could he just ignore it? How could that be? Tang Li peeked pitifully at Long Fei Yi as if to speak, but stopped himself. When he saw Han Yunqing walk over, he resentfully lowered his head and kept silent. "Still not talking?" Long Fei Yi roared. He wasn't patient enough to take out his whip to teach Tang Li a lesson. Han Yunqing rushed over and snatched Long Fei Yi's whip away. On the sidelines, Chu Shifeng's views of the world were refreshed. In his impression, no one in the world dared to steal His Highness Duke of Qin's weapons, whether it was a whip or a sword. "Han Yunqing, you've won again." All right. "It's not like it's a big deal," Han Yunqing coaxed helplessly as she held down Long Fei Yi's whip. "It's not a big deal." The two brothers both looked towards her, especially Long Fei Yi's gaze. "It was enough to kill." Han Yunqing hastened to explain. "What I mean is, if Cloud Realm Trade Consortium wants to find the Tang clan, then let them. Zhang Qiuzi wants to cause trouble for the Tang clan too. Go back and tell Tang Zijin to have the two clans fight. Whoever wins will send Tang Li to their home." Han Yunqing was obviously joking, but Long Fei Yi was serious. "It's not necessarily a bad idea." Tang Li asked timidly, "Big bro, what are you planning to do?" "Just what's going on?" Long Fei Yi's icy voice almost froze Tang Li. He hesitated for a long time before telling him the whole story. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing's expressions changed at the end. "You two swear not to tell a third person?" Tang Li demanded seriously. "Just how useless are you?" Long Fei Yi's rage reached the skies, but Han Yunqing couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Tang Li, it looks like you're not the one who's losing out. I heard Ouyang Ningjing's a beauty. You're quite lucky with women, you brat." She recalled the classic opening of a domineering CEO novel. Unfortunately, Ouyang Ningjing didn't use drugs to steal seeds to make babies. She had to have a motive for doing so. Tang Li didn't know how to answer Han Yunqing anymore. Han Yunqing continued, "I've long heard that Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's executive director doesn't marry outside the family. So it turns out she took a liking to you and set you up to marry into her family?" Ouyang Ningjing had done such a thing and even publicly accused Tang Li of bullying her. It was obvious that she was relying on Tang Li and the Tang clan's face to avoid exposing the truth. It had to be said that this woman was ruthless and shameless enough. No wonder she was able to stabilize Cloud Realm Trade Consortium in such a short time after Ouyang Ning Nua's downfall and even hooked up with Northern Li's imperial family. Although Han Yunqing despised Tang Li as well, she knew that aphrodisiac could crush any man's willpower. She couldn't blame Tang Li entirely for his carelessness. Han Yunqing came up with a plan and said, "Since that's the case, why don't we do it for real?" "What do you mean?" Long Fei Yi asked. "Let's have Tang Li express his goodwill to Ouyang Ningjing and use the chance to break into Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. That way, we'll be able to control the movements of the consortium and the Ning clan. Secondly, we can borrow the consortium's strength to deal with Zhangqiuzi while we sit back and watch the tigers fight. Thirdly." Han Yunqing smiled. "Tang Li has to get his revenge no matter what." Long Fei Yi glanced at Tang Li, only to see the man nod seriously. Then he gave Han Yunqing a thumbs up. "Sister-in-law is brilliant. I, Tang Li, will definitely get my revenge." "The Tang clan is still attractive to Ning Cheng," Long Fei Yi said. They still needed Tang Zijin to facilitate this. After all, Tang Li had gone with them to rescue Gu Beiyue last time, so Ning Cheng wouldn't trust him. If Tang Zijin was the clan head, things would be much easier. Ning Cheng would never expect the Tang clan to be Long Fei Ye's subordinates. That very day, Long Fei Yi wrote a letter to Tang Zijin to tell him the truth. Tang Zijin was so furious that he almost rushed back to Yaoshui Prefecture to kill Tang Li. That brat had thrown away all of the Tang clan's face. But after seeing Long Fei Ye's plan, he held himself back and went to find Aunt Ru to discuss the matter. "If we can fight our way into the D clan, it'll be more important than Zhangqiuzi's strength," Tang Zijin said seriously. "Then will Li agree?" Aunt Ru asked hastily. "Can he refuse?" Tang Zijin was still fuming. "Calm down. Do you think Li will really lose out in something like this? If there's anyone to blame, blame that cheap Ouyang Ningjing for being so shameless. Li can only endure the humiliation this time. Once he breaks into Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, he'll have to worry about revenge in the future." As Aunt Ru spoke, she added, "Clan head, there's been no progress with the Shadow Clan last time. Han Yunqing is still a hidden danger. If Han Yunqing really is from Western Qin, could she be colluding with the D clan to harm Fei?" Tang Zijin rolled his eyes at her, clearly disdaining her for suspecting too much. "For now, let's take care of Li's matter," Tang Zijin said. The next day, Tang Zijin used his status as Tang clan head to spread news that Tang Li would take care of Ouyang Ningjing until the end, but he wouldn't marry her into her family. At the same time, he announced Tang Li and Zhangqiuying's marriage to express his apologies to the Zhang clan and formally annulled the engagement. Tang Li's actions were his fault for not teaching him well enough, so he was willing to compensate the Zhang clan for all their losses. Cloud Realm Continent was thrown into an uproar at the news. Ning Cheng was still fuming over Ning Jing's decision to act first and report later, so he was surprised by the news. He never expected the Tang clan to have an engagement with Celestial Mountain. He hesitated for a while before telling Ouyang Ningjing, "Don't fight with Zhangqiuzi right now. Duanmuyao's still a problem, so don't make trouble for me." Ouyang Ningjing gave a cold snort. "Is your little sister's chastity and marriage so unimportant?" Ning Cheng arched a brow. "Ningjing, the people outside might believe that Tang Li humiliated you, but your lordship doesn't believe it. This damned girl had sent men to surround the Tang clan and spread the news before telling him she'd been bullied by Tang Li. Based on his understanding of her, he'd rather believe that she'd schemed against Tang Li. Big bro, it doesn't matter what you believe or not. In any case, I'm already one of Tang Li's people. Even if you don't provoke Zhangqiuzi, I won't allow the Zhang clan to steal my husband." Chapter 637. Ning Cheng was already angry to begin with, so hearing Ning Jing's words only made him slap her across the face. "Since when did you have the right to call the shots in the Ning clan?" Even if he didn't want to form a marriage alliance with the Tang clan, this matter still had to be handled properly. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had almost lost all face in a single night. This wasn't just Ning Jing's problem anymore, but Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's, or rather, the Ning clan's. Ning Jing cradled her burning cheek in pain, but she didn't lower her head. She was still staring straight at her older brother, the head of the D clan's Ning clan. Although he was the only person she'd ever feared since she was young, she wouldn't back down a single step on this matter. She'd already thrown away her chastity, so how could she back out now? Big bro, what do you mean by this? Ning Jing asked calmly. Ning Qing fell silent before he gave her 5 words. Pear Blossom Rain Needles. The Pear Blossom Rain Needles were the Tang clan's second most precious treasure. A single one was worth the price of a top-grade expert, but no one knew that Tang Li had already used them all up. Ning Cheng's intentions were clear. He wanted the Tang clan to offer up the Pear Blossom Rain Needles as an apology, then settle the matter peacefully. Was her chastity only worth a single assassination weapon? Ning Jing's eyes flashed with pain, but she still smiled. Big bro, when did your appetite shrink? Ning Cheng had a huge appetite and even greater ambitions. He'd considered using this chance to pull the Tang clan into his camp, but he had other misgivings. For one thing, Tang Li and Long Fei Yi had a close personal relationship. For another, if Cloud Realm Trade Consortium insisted on letting Tang Li marry into their family, they'd offend Sangchozi for sure. Big bro, are you so sure that Chu Tianin can handle Duan Muyao? The one who died was Duan Muyao's own mother. This time, Ning Jing wasn't here to discuss, but to negotiate. Just like how she'd done countless business negotiations in the past, she'd made ample preparations this time. Even if Chu Tianin can find the true culprit behind Empress Shue's assassination, so what? Empress Shue had been kidnapped and assassinated, so the Chu family was definitely involved. Would Duan Muyao forgive the Chu family? Moreover, even though Duan Muyao had been banished from the Western Zhou imperial family, she was still the princess of Western Zhou. Brother, even if the Ning family doesn't want me one day, I won't do anything to betray the Ning family, let alone make friends with the Ning family's enemies. The logic was the same. Why should we lower our own prestige just to please Duan Muyao and Celestial Mountain? Ning Qing sat off to the side, not replying. Ning Jing continued, Big brother, why don't we push all the blame for Empress Shui onto the Chu clan? The Ning clan should be a bit more forceful so that Duan Muyao won't think that we're afraid of her. If that's the case, she'll be more or less afraid. Ning Cheng nodded thoughtfully. He agreed with the idea. Not offending Celestial Mountain and expressing goodwill were two different things. He didn't want to offend Celestial Mountain, but that didn't mean he'd take the initiative to do so. Ning Jing rejoiced at Ning Cheng's nod. She quickly coaxed, Big brother, as long as Duan Muyao is in Celestial Mountain, we'll never be on good terms with them. Why don't we use this chance to rope in the Tang clan? Once eldest young Master Tang joins Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, we won't have to worry about getting our hands on powerful assassination weapons. Tang Li, Ning Cheng was lost in thought, but Ning Jing guessed his intentions before he could speak. Big brother, I've already investigated. Tang Li and Long Fei Yi are on very good personal terms, so Han Yunqing's assassination weapons all came from Tang Li. But that's just a personal relationship. The Tang clan has never had any dealings with the Duke of Qin's estate. Tang Li's marriage was still decided by Tang Zijin. Did you figure out the relationship between the Tang clan and the Duke of Qin's estate in just a few days? Ning Cheng cold retorted. If the two are on good terms, then Tang Li and Long Fei Yi are on good terms. Why would Tang Li run away from the marriage? Why would Tang Zijin need to scheme so hard to form a marriage alliance with the Tsang clan and establish good relations with Celestial Mountain? Big brother, don't forget, Long Fei Yi is Tianshan Kenzo's eldest disciple. Ning Qing didn't speak. After a long time, Ning Jing couldn't wait any longer and asked, Big brother, you must have investigated the relationship between the Tang clan and the Duke of Qin's estate, right? Ning Jing knew that this was Ning Cheng's greatest worry, so he must have sent people to investigate after the incident. Moreover, he must have found nothing, or else he wouldn't be sitting here listening to her nonsense. Ning Jing's face was still hurting, but she resolutely walked in front of Ning Cheng and said word by word, "Big brother, no matter what, I'm taking Tang Li for sure." So speaking, she turned to leave. Although her heart was filled with apprehension, she didn't hesitate to take each step. She had already prepared herself for the worst. Even if she had to use Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's assets to threaten him, she had to decide her own marriage. By the time she reached the door, Ning Cheng finally spoke up. "Make an appointment with Tang Zijin. Your lordship wants to meet him personally. There's finally hope." Ning Jing was thrilled, but she didn't show it. She said seriously, "All right, I'll do it right away." Once she was out the door, she exhaled in relief. From what she understood of her big brother, as long as he made an appointment with Tang Zijin, he'd already made up his mind. Touching her swollen face, Ning Jing didn't mind at all. Instead, she smiled happily. How could she not be happy that she'd finally made progress in her marriage? She didn't know what was going on, but as she smiled, the image of that man's face that was burning with lust that night surfaced in her mind. What the hell, what was she thinking about him? "Humph, Tang Li, how dare you trick me like this? Just you wait." Ning Cheng might have said he wanted to meet Tang Zijin personally, but due to his special status, he'd only show up in disguise. In name, he'd only meet with Tang Zijin as one of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's higher-ups. Very soon, Tang Zijin received news that Cloud Realm Trade Consortium had sent someone to take care of Ning Jing's affairs. They wanted him to pick a time and place for the meeting. "Who did they send?" Aunt Ru asked. "They didn't say, but it shouldn't be Ning Cheng," Tang Zijin said seriously. "This matter can't be delayed. Zhang Qiuzi's men should be here soon." Aunt Ru only smiled coldly. "Brother-in-law, Zhang Qiuzi hasn't made any moves recently. If I'm not wrong, he's still observing the situation." "How could that be?" "He'll definitely come personally within the next few days," Tang Zijin didn't believe it. He, that damned girl Ning Jing deserves to be the head of the Bailey Trade Consortium." "Guess what she did?" Aunt Ru grinned. Tang Zijin didn't understand. Aunt Ru explained, "News of her being humiliated by Tang Li has already spread like wildfire. That girl spent a fortune and 2 days to control public opinion. Now all of Cloud Realm Continent is cursing Tang Li and clamoring for Tang Li to take responsibility." Hearing this, Tang Zijin understood. Although he loathed Ning Jing, he still admired her for her skills. She wasn't just pressuring the Tang clan, but Zhang Qiuzi as well. Celestial Mountain had always been a symbol of justice and morality. If Zhang Qiuzi fought with Ning Jing over Tang Li now, he'd be the subject of ridicule. No wonder Zhang Qiuzi hadn't made any moves. He had no choice but to avoid the wind. Very good, very good. Where do you think it'll be appropriate to meet?" Tang Zijin asked. Aunt Ru smiled. "The Tang clan, of course. Fei hasn't been back in ages. If he comes this time, we have to keep him for a few days so he can kowtow at his mother's grave." Aunt Ru was certain that Long Fei Yi would show up. As an older brother, he was still concerned about Tang Li's marriage. Of course, she was more concerned about the fact that if Long Fei Yi came, then Han Yunqing would come as well. Finally, she had a chance to lure Han Yunqing to the Tang clan. "All right, you go make the arrangements." Tang Zijin left the matter to Aunt Ru, who quickly wrote back to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium to meet at the Tang clan in 5 days. As soon as Long Fei Yi received the news, he tossed the letter to Tang Li and said coldly, "It's time for you to scram back." "You're not coming with me?" Tang Li asked timidly. Although his father had already agreed to help Long Fei Yi deal with the Ning clan, he was certain that if Long Fei Yi didn't go back with him, he'd be beaten severely. "You go back first. Your sister-in-law and I will be right behind you," Long Fei Yi said. Over the past few days, people had been investigating the relationship between the Duke of Qin's estate and the Tang clan. If he went out with Tang Li again, it'd be too suspicious. Tang Li understood the logic after some thought. Although he was reluctant, he still nodded. Fine, then. Before he left, he asked Long Feiyi, Big Bro, are you really going to let me marry into the family? This. Although he knew it was all an act, he still couldn't get over the hurdle in his heart. Big Bro, no matter what, it should be Ning Jing who marries into the family. Ning Jing, she. At this moment, Han Yunqing walked in with a smile. She what? In any case, they're well aware of the truth. They're the ones with a guilty conscience, not us. If we insist on Ning Jing marrying into the Tang clan, what can they do? Tang Li asked seriously. Ning Jing marrying into the Tang clan? Han Yunqing couldn't believe it. Brat, you haven't been poisoned in the head, have you? Does this fellow know he's going to be a spy in Cloud Realm Trade Consortium? What I mean is, let her marry into the Tang clan. After that, I can go anywhere with her. In any case, she has to be the one marrying me, not the other way around. Tang Li emphasized. If Ning Jing married into the family, her husband would be the head of the household. He could order her around and torture her to get his revenge. But once he married into the family, his wife would be the head of the household. How could he suppress her then? Scram back and discuss this with your father. Long Feiyi was getting impatient. What else could Tang Li do besides silently leaving the house? The last thing he expected in his life wasn't that he'd be drugged by a woman, but that his big bro Long would stand on the same side as his father. Thinking up to here, Tang Li hated that slut Ning Jing even more. He'd already walked out of the courtyard gates when he doubled back to appear in front of Han Yunqing. Sister-in-law. Seeing his expression, Han Yunqing couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. What? Do you have the medicine? Tang Li asked seriously. Are you sick? Han Yunqing asked doubtfully. Tang Li said unhappily, aphrodisiac. Do you have it? Give me a bottle. Han Yunqing's mouth twitched. She didn't know how to reply. Tang Li urged, it's fine even if you don't have to use the aphrodisiac. In any case, give me as many as you have. Han Yunqing ignored Tang Li and slowly turned to look at the tea table on the side. As expected, Long Feiyi was already looking towards them. Chapter 638. Long Feiyi paid close attention to the topic of Han Yunqing and Tang Li. Even if Han Yunqing really had that kind of medicine, she would definitely not dare to take it out. A woman who carried that kind of medicine around with her was definitely not a good person in Long Feiyi's eyes. Han Yunqing shook her head and answered Tang Li, I don't know what you're talking about. Sister-in-law. Tang Li tugged at the corner of her clothes as if he was ready to kneel down in front of her at any moment. Han Yunqing slapped his hand away and said softly, let's go, let's go. It's not easy to get that thing you want. You can buy it with money. The ones out there are definitely not as powerful as yours. Sister-in-law, help me make one. There's no antidote. Tang Li said seriously. Han Yunqing immediately avoided him and acted as if she did not know him. I don't know how to. Sister-in-law, don't pretend. How can such a small matter be difficult for you? Tang Li said seriously. Han Yunqing only felt that the cold gaze behind her was about to freeze her. She wished that she could poison Tang Li mute. Aphrodisiac is like a poison but not a poison. It's like a medicine but not a medicine. I really don't know anything about it. Moreover, I don't know how to research that kind of thing. She had to clarify this kind of thing with righteous words. Tang Li did not give up and wanted to beg again. However, when he was about to tug at Han Yunqing's clothes for the second time, a teacup flew from behind them. Fortunately, Tang Li's hand dodged quickly, or else he would have been injured. Tang Li was about to turn around, but Long Fei-yi was already walking towards him expressionlessly. The more Tang Li looked at him, the more he felt that the situation was not right. He felt that it was better for him to leave quickly. Unfortunately, before he could move, Long Fei-yi kicked him fiercely and sent him flying out of the door. He did not know how far Tang Li was sent flying, but one thing was certain. This time, Tang Li would not turn back. Long Fei-yi glanced at Han Yunqing and said nothing. He sat down and continued to make tea. Although Han Yunqing wondered if Tang Li would really buy the aphrodisiac, she did not have the courage to ask again. "Do you want some?" Long Fei-yi asked. "Drink." Han Yunqing sat back down. There was only a coffee table between the two of them. Long Fei-yi poured her tea as usual and didn't say anything. He just tasted it carefully. Han Yunqing felt that the atmosphere seemed to be a little strange. That damned Tang Li had already left. Why did he come back to ask about that damn thing? He deserved to be raped by Ning Jing. Han Yunqing had a strong heart, but Long Fei was her nemesis. As long as he didn't say a word, she'd feel uneasy and worried about personal gains and losses. After sitting for a while, Long Fei-yi did not say anything. Han Yunqing's uneasy heart finally calmed down. "Long Fei-yi, when are we leaving?" she asked. She really wanted to go to the Tang sect. "Tomorrow." "We're not far from the Tang sect," Long Fei-yi replied. "Okay. Then I'll go see Dr. Gu and pack my things." Han Yunqing got up and was about to leave. She thought that she must have been overthinking. This guy did not take Tang Li's matter to heart at all. Unexpectedly, before she reached the door, Long Fei-yi asked, "Han Yunqing, you said that aphrodisiacs are like poison but not poison. Like medicine but not medicine. What do you mean?" Sure enough, her intuition was never wrong. She turned back and told herself to face Long Fei-yi like a patient. She had to explain this academic question with a professional attitude. She answered seriously, "There are 3 types of aphrodisiacs. One is medicine, one is poison, and the last one is between medicine and poison. Therefore, it's like medicine but not medicine, like poison but not poison." "What's the difference between these 3 types?" Long Fei-yi asked humbly. "There's a difference between the medicinal properties and the amount. The difference is mainly in the strength of the medicinal properties. Medicine is used to cure diseases. Poison is used to harm people. It's between medicine and poison. It can cure diseases and harm people." After Han Yunqing answered this question, she did not dare to look Long Fei-yi in the eye. It would be pretentious to say that her mind did not stray. Long Fei-yi nodded as he sipped his tea with interest. He did not ask any more questions. It seemed that he had asked enough. Han Yunqing narrowed her eyes and drank her tea unconsciously. He thought to himself, this guy should stop here. It's useless for him to know so much. Anyway, he has no use for it. Unexpectedly, after a moment of silence, Long Fei-yi suddenly asked, "Then what kind of aphrodisiac effect?" Pfft. Han Yunqing spat out a mouthful of tea onto Long Fei-yi's face. This tea was no different from saliva. Long Fei-yi did not mind and took a brocade handkerchief to wipe it slowly. Her face was completely red, like a red apple. He did not feel awkward at all and acted as if nothing had happened. He even asked her, "Did you choke?" "No." Han Yunqing finally understood. This guy was obviously flirting with her in disguise. Damn it! Han Yunqing was infuriated. After Long Fei-yi finished wiping his face, he slowly wiped the coffee table and did not seem to have any intention of asking any more questions. Han Yunqing clearly saw the corners of his mouth curl up. She said hatefully, "Your Highness, these 3 types of aphrodisiac can all be used for aphrodisiac. The difference is not very big. Under normal circumstances, there is no need to make a difference." Long Fei Yi was rather surprised and continued to ask, what kind of situation is there a need to make a difference? This, I'm not sure, Han Yunqing answered. Then what else do you know? Long Fei Yi continued to ask. This guy was still not letting go. Han Yunqing hardened her heart and asked back, Your Highness, why are you asking so many questions? It's useful, Long Fei Yi answered. What's the use? Han Yunqing continued to argue with him. Long Fei Yi smiled and asked ambiguously, What do you think? Han Yunqing's face turned red again. Suddenly, she did not know how to answer. She thought that she must be crazy to discuss this topic with this man. Alright, that's it. I'm leaving. She wanted to escape. Long Fei Yi took her hand and pulled her into his embrace as he asked very seriously. This time, he asked, Han Yunqing, who taught you these things? He actually asked so many questions, and his real motive was actually this. Han Yunqing really wanted to cry. She had already cursed Tang Li's 18 great ancestors in her heart for starting this topic. Answer me. Long Fei's smooth chin gently rubbed against her cheek as their ears rubbed against each other intimately. Still, his voice was low and deep. I read it from a book. Han Yunqing answered truthfully. Really? Long Fei Ye's tone was filled with threat. Han Yunqing swore that she'd never seen anyone so jealous in her life. So narrow-minded, so calculative. She pushed him aside and stared seriously into his eyes. Could it be fake? Long Fei Yi hugged her again and sighed softly. After a long time, he replied, It's not allowed to be fake. Han Yunqing discovered that his voice was different now. It sounded gentle and helpless, like a sigh, but also like a warning. She didn't know why, but her heart suddenly calmed down. She let him hug her and let his big hand gently pat her back. Long Fei Yi, what are you sighing about? Long Fei Yi, what are you helpless about? Yunxi's been fine and obedient all this time. Yunxi, I've never made things hard for you, have I? The next day, Han Yunqing and Long Fei Yi prepared to leave for the Tang clan. Long Fei Yi took care of some matters at hand before leaving with Han Yunqing to bid farewell to Gu Beiyue. Gu Beiyue's leg injury was already slowly recovering. At first, Han Yunqing came every day to treat him with acupuncture, but after 3 days, he declined and said he knew how to do it himself. Han Yunqing didn't agree, but he used Han Yunqing's acupuncture skills as an excuse to refuse. Han Yunqing had no choice but to let him do as he pleased. After returning from the medical cottage, he'd been recuperating. Besides occasionally sitting in his wheelchair in the courtyard to get some fresh air, he spent most of his time in his room. Han Yunqing worried that he'd be bored, but later discovered that he could spend an entire day reading a medical book. His leg only needed to rest. Besides acupuncture, he didn't need much care. After 100 days of rest, he'd be fully healed. It wasn't clear whether Gu Beiyue knew about Tang Li, but they couldn't tell Gu Beiyue that they were going to the Tang clan. After all, Long Fei Ye's origins had to be kept a secret. Han Yunqing didn't treat Gu Beiyue as an outsider, nor did she want to hide anything from him. However, this was Long Fei Ye's secret, so the fewer people who knew, the better. After all, if this was leaked, Tianning's imperial clan would definitely make a fuss about it. There might even be traitors in the south-central regions. In this world, one's bloodline was a very important factor. They simply said they were going on a long trip. Will you be gone for long? Gu Beiyue asked seriously. Before Han Yunqing could reply, Long Fei Yi asked, Is something the matter? Gu Beiyue was only concerned, but Long Fei Ye's question was hurtful. Han Yunqing felt uncomfortable at the question, but Gu Beiyue said seriously, This one's leg was saved by your highness and esteemed Wang Fei. If this one can stand up, I'll definitely pay my respects to you too. I'm afraid that if you two aren't back in 100 days, this one's return to Pill Fiend Pharmacy will be delayed by a few days. Han Yunqing didn't like Gu Beiyue's courteous words, but her heart still warmed at his words. It won't be 100 days. I still want to see you stand up with my own eyes, she said seriously. Long Fei Yi didn't say anything. They sat for a while longer before leaving. As soon as they left, they saw Gu walking towards them. Seeing Gu Beiyue calmed one's heart, seeing Gu, one's spirit was lifted. Han Yunqing hurriedly waved, "Old ghost, how's it going?" Long Fei Yi had given him 10 days to deal with Madame Lianxin's matter, and it was about time. Gu was originally listless, but he immediately perked up when he saw Han Yunqing. He looked at the two of them and smiled. "Where are you going?" "Sightseeing," Long Fei Yi answered. Gu glanced at him, his eyes clearly saying, "I'm not asking you." "Poison lass, where are you going?" he asked with a smile. Han Yunqing avoided the question and asked seriously, "Have you finished dealing with Madame Lianxin's matter?" "Not yet." Gu's expression darkened. "What's going on?" Long Fei Yi asked seriously. "Things didn't go well with Mu Linger, so I haven't touched Madame Lianxin's matter yet," Gu said indifferently. "What's going on?" Long Fei Yi was still very concerned about this matter. Unexpectedly, Gu replied faintly, "That damned girl said she wanted to come over and talk." He then turned to Han Yunqing seriously, "Poison lass, you didn't reveal anything, right?" Chapter 639. What did Han Yunqing divulge? She had divulged it a long time ago, and she had divulged it all. "No, are you suspecting me?" Han Yunqing was especially serious. Seeing that she was about to get upset, Gu immediately waved his hands. "No, no. I'm just. Why do you think that girl came here all of a sudden? Maybe she wanted to ask you about medicine. I gave her an ancient medicine tome, but she probably couldn't understand it," Han Yunqing guessed. "An ancient medicine tome?" Gu didn't understand. "I got it from the king of medicine. It's so old that I can't even understand some of the words." Han Yunqing strayed further and further away from the topic. Gu wasn't stupid. Between people, especially between men and women, there was always someone who had the upper hand. In front of Han Yunqing, Gu was always happy and foolish. Oh. He believed her just like that. Han Yunqing said earnestly, "Old ghost, that girl Ling is my little sister and the pillar of Pill Fiend Pharmacy. She can be considered the Mu family's last hope. Teach her well, all right?" Gu nodded without a second thought. "Don't worry. Discuss Madame Lianxin's matter properly with her when she comes," Han Yunqing added. Gu nodded again. "Then we'll take our leave first," Han Yunqing said. Gu nodded again. When Han Yunqing and Long Fei Yi got into the carriage and it drove away, he finally came to his senses and chased after them. "Hey, where are you going? When are you coming back?" How could he be at ease when he didn't know her whereabouts? This time, it was Long Fei Yi who answered. "Taking a walk to admire the flowers." Gu stood in the middle of the road, motionless. After a long time, he shrugged his shoulders and turned his head back with an enchanting smile. He looked up at the blue sky and suddenly realized that it was spring. This was the best time to be in spring. Taking a walk to admire the flowers. He couldn't help but miss the taste of the wilderness. It had been a long time since he went back. By the time Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing reached the Tang clan, there was still a day left before Aunt Ru's appointment with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. The Tang sect's territory was vast, encompassing the entire Crouching Dragon Mountain Range. There were 3 peaks in the Crouching Dragon Mountain Range, the Heavenly Dragon Mountain Range, the Earth Dragon Mountain Range, and the Divine Dragon Mountain Range. There were 2 basins between the mountains and a mountain stream. The Divine Dragon Mountain was the main peak of the Crouching Dragon Mountain Range. It was where the sect leader resided. The Heavenly Dragon Mountain, Earth Dragon Mountain, and 2 other valleys were where the disciples resided. The main gates of the Tang clan were at the foot of the crouching Dragon Mountain range, surrounded by members of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. Long Fei Yi brought Han Yunqing to the back of the mountain and passed through a deep ravine to reach the main peak. No one noticed them the entire way, which was proof of Long Fei Yi's familiarity with the Tang clan. Divine Dragon Mountain was extremely precipitous, like Mount Hua itself. There was only one way up, and many parts of the path were almost parallel to the mountain itself. It was impossible to stand on one's feet, so one had to use both hands and feet to climb up. With such a steep drop and no safety measures, only an expert would be able to make it. Han Yunqing looked at the path and mused that even an expert would have a hard time climbing this mountain. As soon as someone attacked from the top, the consequences would be unthinkable. But Long Fei Yi didn't need to use any lightness techniques to carry her. As soon as they stepped onto the plank path, the hidden mechanisms beneath activated. Their feet touched nothing as they fell to the ground. Han Yunqing hugged Long Fei Yi tightly as she exclaimed, "Is this a trap?" After all, she was still on her guard against Aunt Ru. "No, it's not. Don't be afraid." Long Fei Yi held her tightly as he flew forward. Soon enough, they reached the center of the cave, where Han Yunqing saw something that looked like an elevator. The setup was very similar, but this elevator wasn't powered by electricity, but by manual labor. Good heavens, the Tang clan is the Tang clan after all. They can actually create something like this. The plank path outside must be used to confuse the enemy. Han Yunqing mused that there must be plenty of peerless hidden weapons hidden in this mountain. The low-key and mysterious Tang clan really is a force to be reckoned with. By the time they reached the top of the mountain with the help of the elevator, they saw Aunt Ru walking towards them. Now that they were in the Tang clan's territory, she would be able to track their movements. "Fei, you're finally back." Aunt Ru smiled as she warmly welcomed them. Just like when they first met, she didn't think much of Han Yunqing. Long Fei Yi wouldn't pay attention to anyone who didn't think much of Han Yunqing. Without a word, he led Han Yunqing straight to the Tang clan's courtyard. "Fei, you've grown up." "So rude." Aunt Ru scolded. Unfortunately, Long Fei Yi still ignored her. What could Aunt Ru do to him? Even though she was an elder, when it came to status, the entire Tang sect, including Tang Zijin, had to treat her with respect. They were already far away, but Aunt Ru was still watching them with a strange smile on her face. She seemed to be calculating something. With Long Fei by her side, Han Yunqing completely forgot about Aunt Ru. The entire way, she carefully observed everything at the peak. She discovered that the largest hall on Divine Dragon Mountain was the Divine Dragon Hall in the middle. That should be the Tang clan's main hall, but the main doors were shut tight and the side doors were locked. It didn't seem like anyone was living inside. Han Yunqing didn't think too much about it, but assumed that this place was similar to an ancestral hall used for sacrifices. Around the Divine Dragon Hall was a circle of courtyards of various sizes about 500 to 600 meters away. Tang Li's residence was in the middle of them. As expected, the young head of the Tang clan was different. Although his courtyard was small, it was luxuriously decorated with red walls, green tiles, and white bricks. Even the furniture inside was plated with gold. Such a luxurious courtyard would be a sight to behold in the city, but in the midst of green hills and clear waters, it was simply a waste of the environment. Tacky. It was impossible to imagine Tang Li dressed in white and looking like an immortal standing in the doorway. What kind of scene would that be? In any case, Han Yunqing felt unwell from the sight. When the servants in the courtyard saw Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing, they were all frightened. One by one, they knelt down and saluted, "Greetings to your Highness Duke of Qin. This is the Princess Consort." Long Fei Yi introduced. The servants were a little surprised, but they all respectfully saluted Han Yunqing, "Greetings to esteemed Princess Consort." "Where's your young master?" Long Fei Yi asked. Young master, has been bedridden for a day." The guard timidly said. What happened? Han Yunqing was anxious. Long Fei Yi knew what was going on and pulled her into the bedroom. As soon as they entered, they saw Tang Li lying on the warm bed, dejected. Father, even if you beat me to death, I won't marry into the family. You won't die from being spanked. Long Fei Yi said. Tang Li immediately turned around. When he saw Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing, he hurriedly tried to get up. But the moment he moved, the wounds on his butt split open. It was so painful that he had no choice but to lie back down. Brother, save me. He was very aggrieved. As Han Yunqing watched, she suddenly had the urge to go over and slap Tang Li's butt. Of course, she could only think about it in her heart. Who knew that as soon as Long Fei Yi walked over, he would slap Tang Li's butt? Tang Li immediately screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Ah, ah, Han Yunqing shook her head. This brat's nature was like a child who never grew up. How could Ning Jing like him? Ning Jing was such a strong woman, so she should have found a more mature and domineering man. It wasn't until Long Fei Yi muffled Tang Li's mouth that he finally quieted down. What's Zhang Qiuzi's attitude? Long Fei Yi asked. Ask him. What else does that stinking brat know besides causing trouble? Tang Zijin's voice drifted in from outside the door. Tang Li rolled his eyes and hung his head to play dead. In his father's heart, he was nothing more than a tool. Did it matter what he knew or didn't know? Unlike Aunt Ru, Tang Zijin nodded at Han Yunqing as soon as he entered the room. It counted as a greeting. Naturally, Han Yunqing returned the gesture with a nod of her own. Fei, please come to the tea house. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium will send someone back tomorrow. There are some things we need to discuss, Tang Zijin said seriously. Let's discuss it here. Tang Li is listening too. Long Fei Yi didn't care whether Tang Zijin agreed or not, but simply sat down by Tang Li's side. Han Yunqing immediately followed suit. Tang Li's head was bowed, but he was grinning from ear to ear. As long as Brother Long was here, he'd be safe. That had been the case since he was young. Who's Cloud Realm sending over? Long Fei Yi asked. It's not clear yet, but it's very likely that it'll be Ning Cheng, Tang Zijin said. Between Zhang Qiuzi and the Tang clan, which side would Ning Cheng choose to offend or befriend? What would Ning Cheng think if Tang Li had a personal relationship with him? Long Fei Yi wondered. Fei, you should persuade that stinking brat. He's not marrying into the Ning clan, but the Ning clan's woman instead. This, old man is really, before Tang Zijin could finish, a fierce female voice cut him off. So what if he's not marrying into the Ning clan? Is there anything wrong with that? Tang Zijin, do you know what you're doing? You're forcing your son to marry into the Ning clan, and you still think you're in the right? Tang Zijin, I'm telling you now. If you keep forcing my I'll fight you to the death. A charming woman strode into the room, holding a handkerchief as she sobbed. She didn't care who else was in the room, but threw herself at Tang Li as soon as she saw him. My Li, why is your life so bitter? How could you have such a heartless father? Sob, why is my life so bitter? How could I have such a worthless husband? Son, if we can't survive tomorrow, we'll jump off Divine Dragon Peak together. We'll be mother and son again in our next lives. We don't want that heartless father of yours. Han Yunqing was stunned. Although she'd heard that Tang Li had a mother who doted on him, she never expected her to be such a person. What a sharp tongue. Tang Zijin's beard stood on end as he listened. He seemed to be a little henpecked, but he wouldn't budge on this matter. Furious, he said, what does a woman like you know? Stop crying and wailing here and making a fool of yourself. Someone come, take madam away. Mother, save me. Mother. Tang Li shouted. Tang Zijin, I'm telling you now. If I leave this door today, don't regret it. Madame Tang said before shoving aside the servants and rushing out herself. Alarmed, Tang Li scrambled to his feet, ignoring his pain to chase after her. Tang Zijin seemed to be frightened as well, because he quickly followed after her. Inside the room, Han Yunqing only felt that everything was a mess, but Long Feiyi had long gotten used to it. He asked thoughtfully, "Who do you think Cloud Realm Trade Consortium will send?" To put it bluntly, tomorrow's meeting was a negotiation. The people who came to negotiate would directly affect the difficulty of the negotiation. Chapter 640. Long Feiyi was wondering who Cloud Realm Trade Consortium would send to negotiate, but Han Yunqing was more concerned about the family of three who'd just run out. She asked doubtfully, "Long Feiyi, should we go take a look? Lady Tang won't take things too hard, will she?" "It's fine." Long Feiyi had long gotten used to the family of three. Actually, he wasn't Tang Li's greatest savior, but Lady Tang. He rarely made a move, but Lady Tang couldn't tolerate her son being punished in the slightest. With Long Feiyi's words, Han Yunqing stopped worrying. Ouyang Ning Jing and Ouyang Ning Nua won't be coming, so it should be Ouyang Ning Cheng, Han Yunqing said. The surname Ouyang represented Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's identity, while the Ning clans. The secret of the Ning and Di clans hadn't been exposed, nor had the fact that Ning Cheng was the boss behind Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. Han Yunqing and the rest had deduced this based on Chu Tiannin's clues and the fact that the Chu and Ning clans had colluded. Most likely, Ning Cheng and the rest were still thinking highly of themselves and had no idea that Chu Tiannin had long sold them out. If he really agrees to marry into the family, it'll definitely raise suspicions, Han Yunqing said seriously. She didn't want Tang Li to marry into Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, both for public and private reasons. After all, Tang Li was still the eldest young master of the Tang clan and Tang Zijin's only son. He was the future successor of the Tang clan. If they really agreed to let Tang Li marry into Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, even a normal person would suspect that the Tang clan had ulterior motives, much less someone as astute as Ning Cheng. Long Feiyi nodded thoughtfully. If he didn't marry into the family, he wouldn't be able to get deep into Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. Then there wouldn't be much point in facilitating the marriage. But if he did, he'd lose face for the Tang clan and appear to have ulterior motives. That was truly a difficult problem. Judging from Tang Li's reaction just now, Tang Zijin probably didn't know what to do. Han Yunqing and Long Feiyi were deep in thought when they saw Mrs. Tang come in with Tang Li. Tang Zijin followed beside them with an ugly expression. It seemed that he couldn't do anything about this mother and son. "Fei, is there a way to avoid marrying into the family?" Tang Zijin asked seriously. "It's difficult," Long Feiyi said honestly. Han Yunqing pondered for a moment and smiled. "I have an idea." She gestured for everyone to come closer and whispered her idea. Everyone listened in disbelief, but it was undeniable that her idea was the best and only way. However, Tang Li's face did not look good at all. He pointed two fingers at Han Yunqing and asked incredulously, "Two?" "Yes. Just two." Han Yunqing was very serious. As for what the two they were talking about, only the few of them knew. Ning Jing won't agree, Tang Li was certain. "Aya, you haven't even married your wife yet, but you already know her so well." Han Yunqing teased. Tang Li felt helpless. If this was any other time, he wouldn't be so easily teased. But now that he'd made such a big mistake, he could only accept Han Yunqing's teasing. In any case, she'll never agree with a personality like hers. "I don't think we'll be able to negotiate tomorrow," Tang Li said seriously. Before Han Yunqing could speak, Tang Zijin lost his temper and scolded, "You don't believe that she'll marry you, but you don't want to marry into the family either. What else do you want? If you have any skills, then don't cause so much trouble. Old man is telling you now, if not for Fei's face, old man would never let a woman from the Ning clan take half a step into our Tang clan, even if it meant offending Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. His words made it sound like Tang Li would marry no one but Ning Jing. Tang Zijin pursed his lips, too lazy to argue with his father. Tang Zijin couldn't take it anymore and raged, "Then what good ideas do you have? Let's hear them." Tang Li shut his mouth resentfully. If he had any ideas, would he still be waiting for the Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing to come? But the more he thought about it, the more he felt that Han Yunqing's ideas were unreliable. If there's no other way, then it's settled. If they don't agree. Tang Zijin sighed. If they don't agree, then we'll delay it for a few more days. Seeing Tang Zijin so angry, Han Yunqing couldn't help but categorize him as one of the cheaters. The next day, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's representatives arrived as promised. It had to be said that their arrival surprised both Han Yunqing and Long Fei Yi, because it was none other than the man who'd negotiated with them and lost miserably. Ouyang Ningnua. Ouyang Ningnua had only brought 2 servant girls and 3 guards with him. If this was a battle of words, then Ouyang Ningnua had come alone. The Tang clan's representatives included Tang Zijin, Lady Tang, and Aunt Ru. Han Yunqing, Long Fei Yi, and Tang Li were all hiding behind the guest hall, separated only by a wooden wall. They could hear everything that was being said there clearly. As soon as Ouyang Ningnua sat down, Tang Zijin ordered someone to serve tea while Han Yunqing and the rest began to discuss the matter in secret. "Sister-in-law, we've won for sure. With Ouyang Ningnua's skills, he's not even fit to carry your shoes." Tang Li was the happiest of them all. "Your mouth's getting sweeter and sweeter," Han Yunqing grinned. "Sister-in-law, if I marry Ouyang Ningjing, won't Ouyang Ningnua become my brother-in-law?" Tang Li asked with a grin. Han Yunqing looked him up and down with disdain. "You're in a good mood. Does your butt not hurt anymore?" Tang Li subconsciously rubbed his butt and lowered his head. By now, Tang Zijin and Ouyang Ningnua had finished exchanging pleasantries and were officially entering the negotiations. "Your Excellency Clan Head, we're all sensible people. There are no outsiders here today, so let's get straight to the point." Ouyang Ningnua seemed to be very straightforward, but everyone knew that he wasn't. Tang Zijin stroked his beard and said in a heavy tone, "All right. What's done can't be undone. What's done can't be undone. There's no point in blaming your son. Let's just discuss the matter of marrying into our family." Ouyang Ningnua wasn't being straightforward at all. He was going too far. Was he here to discuss how to deal with the matter, or was he here to deal with it directly? Tang Zijin didn't want to hurt their relationship so quickly, but Ouyang Ningnua's words had infuriated him. "You should know very well what's done." Ouyang Ningnua looked confused. "What do you mean, Your Excellency Clan Head? This one doesn't understand." "You don't understand? Ha, why don't we make a trip to Medical City together and find out what kind of medicine Tang Li has in his body?" Tang Zijin asked angrily. Long Fei Yi and Tang Li were shocked to hear this. How could they possibly find out what kind of aphrodisiac was used? "My father knows about this too," Tang Li muttered to himself. Long Fei Yi glanced at Han Yunqing. Han Yunqing lowered her head in silence. She was the one who told Tang Zijin about this. Soon enough, Tang Li understood what was going on. He asked in a low voice, "Sister-in-law, can you really find out? How are you going to do that?" Han Yunqing pretended not to hear him. When she didn't answer, Tang Li wanted to ask more, but no sound came out of his mouth. He was mute again. After a long while, when Long Fei Yi didn't say anything, Han Yunqing took the initiative to explain, "This was just a ploy to scare Ouyang Ningnua. I don't know if I can find out anything." So, Long Fei Yi heard her, but he didn't say anything. Tang Li wanted to say something, but he couldn't. As expected, Ouyang Ningnua had been scared stiff. It wasn't that he couldn't take the scare, but that he knew the truth. Moreover, he really didn't know anything about aphrodisiac. Although he was scared, he didn't back down immediately. He stared at Tang Zijin in silence. So, Tang Zijin pressed on as soon as he gained the upper hand. Although Ouyang Ningnua felt guilty, he quickly calmed down and smiled. What is the meaning of this, honorable clan master? This one really doesn't understand. You don't understand? Alright, then let's go to Medical City. We'll discuss this when we get back. Tang Zijin stood up as he spoke. Han Yunqing silently admired him. Tang Zijin wasn't the head of the Tang clan for nothing after all. He had quite the guts. Ouyang Ningnua wasn't easy to deal with either. He also stood up and bowed humbly. This one is slow-witted and truly doesn't understand what honorable clan master is trying to say. If we can find an answer when we get to Medical City, this one is willing to accompany you. They're really going at it this time. Ha! Someone prepare the carriage. Tang Zijin was very decisive. Ouyang Ningnua didn't stop him. Instead, he slowly said, Honorable clan master, are you suspecting that your son has been drugged? Even if we find out who drugged him, we won't be able to find out who did it. Although he had no intention of stopping Tang Zijin, his words had successfully broken Tang Zijin's trap. What he meant was that even if they found out that Tang Li had been drugged, Ouyang Ningjing wouldn't admit to it. No one could do anything to her. Although Tang Zijin was angry at Tang Li's incompetence, he was still very protective of him. Coldly, he said, at least we can prove my son's innocence. When he heard this, Tang Li was quite moved. He nodded repeatedly. Ouyang Ningnua nodded as well, a pensive look on his face. After a while, he said something that would infuriate Ouyang Ningnua to death. Aphrodisiacs have always had the effect of livening things up. What a roundabout way of putting it. What he meant was blatant humiliation. In other words, he was implying that the drug in Tang Li's body might have been his own doing to liven things up. Tang Zijin was so angry that his beard was sticking up. Tang Li, who was hiding in the back, almost charged out to fight Ouyang Ningnua. Fortunately, Long Fei Yi stopped him. In the end, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing had to deal with a despicable person like Ouyang Ningnua. Tang Zijin was so angry that he couldn't speak. However, he suddenly heard Long Fei Yi's ventriloquism. After listening to it, his expression finally improved. He used Long Fei Yi's ventriloquism to deal with Ouyang Ningnua. You and I will take a trip to Medicine City. The rest will be left for the world to judge. Ouyang Ningnua's expression darkened at these words. Originally, public opinion had been biased towards Ouyang Ningjing. Everyone sympathized with Ouyang Ningnua and denounced the Tang clan on her behalf. If they really did go to Medicine City and found traces of aphrodisiac in Tang Li's body, there would be plenty of rumors. Some people would think that Tang Li had used the drug himself to liven things up, while others would think that Tang Li had been drugged. In this way, Ouyang Ningjing would become a target of suspicion. As long as a portion of the public suspected Ouyang Ningjing, her reputation as a girl would be ruined. In short, if she went to Medical City, Ouyang Ningjing, who originally had the upper hand in public opinion, would suffer. Ouyang Ningnua stared at Tang Zijin as his eyes flashed coldly. He had been in charge of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium for many years and had gone through numerous negotiations. The only people he'd lost to were Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing. He refused to believe that he'd lose to Tang Zijin this time. Chapter 641. Ouyang Ningnua thought it wouldn't hurt to yield to Tang Zijin this time. Thus, he avoided the issue. Your Excellency clan head, this one traveled thousands of li to solve a problem. Let's turn big problems into small ones and small ones into nothing. If we make a big fuss at Medical City, it won't do Cloud Realm Trade Consortium or the Tang clan any good, don't you think? I won't yield. Long Fei Yi said to Tang Zijin through ventriloquism. Tang Zijin said domineeringly, we're only going to Medical City to find out the truth. How is that making a big fuss? Could it be that Sir Ouyang knows something? Ouyang Ning Noa was surprised. He'd already yielded, but Tang Zijin was still pressing him. Before coming to negotiate, he'd done his research on the Tang clan. From what he understood, the Tang clan had always kept a low profile, and Tang Zijin wasn't the type to stir up trouble. But he didn't have time to think. No matter what, he had to stop Tang Zijin. If he really did go to Medical City, he'd be beaten up by Ning Qing first, no matter what the results were. Tang Zijin didn't give him any face even after he'd given in just then. How was he supposed to do that now? While Ouyang Ning Noa was pondering, Tang Zijin heard another ventriloquism. Still not leaving? Tang Zijin translated, then said, Sir Ouyang, the carriage has already been prepared. Please. Ouyang Ning Noa was already riding a tiger and had no way to back down. He gave way to Tang Zijin and said, Your Excellency clan head, this matter has already caused an uproar. Medical City might not get involved. Do you have any other ideas? Why don't we discuss it in detail? Tang Zijin was finally satisfied. He was about to speak when Long Fei's ventriloquism came again. He could only listen carefully and repeat, My unworthy son was rude first, so how could this old man dare to have any thoughts? If the Hundredly Trade Consortium has any plans, feel free to speak. Tang Zijin mused that this didn't sound like Long Fei Ye's style at all. But there was no point in thinking too much about it. He'd already been reduced to a mouthpiece. Ouyang Ning Noa only felt that this style of speech was familiar, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He sat down and pretended to drink tea, but was actually fighting for time to think. Tang Zijin had threatened him first, then tossed the initiative to him. How cunning! This logic was the same as bargaining. Tang Zijin had not revealed his trump card, but he had been testing his bottom line. Before he even finished his cup of tea, Tang Zijin was already urging him. Actually, it was the person behind the scenes who was urging him. Young Master Ouyang, there are no outsiders here today. Let's not beat around the bush. If you have any requests, feel free to state them. Wasn't that what Ouyang Ningrua had said at the beginning? Ouyang Ning Noa felt as if he had been slapped in the face by his own words. He really wanted to insist that Tang Li marry into the family, but judging from the current situation, he knew that if he mentioned the word, marry into the family, Tang Zijin would definitely go to Medical City. If he didn't mention marrying into the Tang family, was he going to ask Ning Jing to marry into the Tang family? Ouyang Ning Noa really wanted that cheap girl Ning Jing to marry into the Tang clan. For one thing, he could regain control of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, and for another, Ning Jing's skills would definitely make a name for herself in the Tang clan. But Ning Jing would rather die than marry into the Tang family. When that girl's temper flared up, even Ning Qing couldn't hold her back, much less him. Ouyang Ning Noa was caught between a rock and a hard place. Young Master Ouyang? Tang Zijin urged again. Ouyang Ning Noa feigned calmness as he looked at him. It was a while before he spoke. Your Excellency clan head, Ning Jing is one of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's executive directors. You know that as well. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium can't do without her. In other words, Ouyang Ning Jing wouldn't marry into the Tang family because she was in charge of Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium couldn't fall into anyone else's hands. At this moment, Tang Zijin heard another ventriloquism. 2. This was the same 2 that Han Yunqing had mentioned yesterday. Tang Zijin finally realized that the ventriloquist was Long Fei Yi, but Han Yunqing was the one who'd come up with the idea. Fortunately, Aunt Ru hadn't acted rashly. That girl's schemes were unfathomable. Tang Zijin quickly recovered his wits and smiled at Ouyang Ning Noa. Old man understands young Master Ouyang's meaning. But Tang Li is our Tang clan's successor. The Tang clan's future can't do without Tang Li. This. Ouyang Ning Noa was caught in a dilemma. Tang Zijin pretended to think for a while before he said, old man does have a plan. What does young master Ouyang think of it? Your Excellency clan head, please speak, Ouyang Ning Nua said politely. When a woman grows up, she'll marry. We'll have Ning Jing marry into our Tang clan. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium and the Tang clan will sign an agreement that their eldest son will become the Tang clan's grandson and inherit the position of clan head. The second son will belong to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium and inherit the position of director. What do you think? Then the two of them. Ouyang Ning Nua probed. As long as they give birth to a second son, old man won't bother interfering in their affairs. Tang Zijin looked helpless. The more Ouyang Ning Nua thought about it, the more he found the idea to be ingenious. As long as her father-in-law, Tang Zijin, didn't make things difficult or interfere, Ning Jing would be no different from Tang Li marrying into the Tang clan. She could still stay in Cloud Realm Trade Consortium and keep Tang Li in check with her skills. If she had children in the future, she might even be able to use them to take control of the Tang clan. Ning Jing wouldn't lose much in the short term, but she'd gain a lot in the long run. Ouyang Ning Nua thought it over for a long time before he finally agreed to Tang Zijin's suggestion. He knew that Ning Jing disliked having children, but Ning Cheng should be satisfied with this plan. That lowly girl was the one who caused all this trouble. She had to suffer a little before she'd restrain herself. That's not impossible. Ouyang Ning Nua smiled. Tang Zijin rejoiced inwardly. This way, the Tang clan wouldn't lose face and Tang Li would have a chance to join Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. Someone come, bring brush and ink. Tang Zijin said decisively, afraid that Ouyang Ning Nua would go back on his word. Soon enough, the prenuptial agreement was written in black and white. Tang Zijin took out the Tang clan's large copper seal and stamped it down. Ouyang Ning Nua did the same with Cloud Realm Trade Consortium's seal. There were 2 copies of the contract, thus deciding the fates of Tang Li and Ouyang Ning Jing. Tang Li couldn't see, but he could hear his father rolling up the paper. He knew this was all a show and that he wouldn't really treat Ouyang Ning Jing as his wife, much less have children with her. But for some reason, he felt a strange, indescribable feeling in his heart. Congratulations, hee. Han Yunqing laughed up her sleeve. Tang Li opened his mouth and begged her to treat his mute poison, but Han Yunqing only smiled innocently. The antidote for this poison is time. It'll disappear automatically in an hour. Tang Li didn't even have the energy to cry. He suddenly rejoiced that he was facing Ning Jing instead of Han Yunqing. He looked doubtfully at Long Fei Yi sitting on the side. He'd never understood how Han Yunqing had subdued Long Fei Yi, but now he had no idea how Long Fei Yi had dealt with this woman. After Tang Zijin and Ouyang Ning Nua put away the contract, they began another round of negotiations. What else was there to discuss now that the wedding was set? The betrothal gifts and dowry, of course. Your Excellency clan head, as this one sees it, the wedding should be held sooner rather than later. After all, there are too many rumors out there. If we delay any longer, it'll damage your son's reputation, Ouyang Ning Nua said. Han Yunqing was about to borrow Long Fei Ye's ventriloquism when Lady Tang suddenly spoke up. Then please send over Ouyang Ning Jing's birth characters. This madam will calculate an auspicious date and send someone to propose marriage. All right. Ouyang Ning Nua agreed easily. Ning Jing is one of the executive directors of our Cloud Realm Trade Consortium. She has a high position and power, so we can't be careless about her wedding. Thus, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium plans to hold a grand banquet from the day of the proposal until the day of the wedding. The details of the banquet were up to the bride's side, so there was no need for Ouyang Ning Nua to tell them. By bringing it up on the spot, he was hinting to Tang Zijin that Cloud Realm Trade Consortium would put on a grand display. Thus, their betrothal gifts couldn't be shabby, or else they'd lose face for the Tang clan. As the wife of the clan head, Lady Tang understood the implications well. She lazily leaned to one side and asked a servant girl, "Is the pear blossom rain needles in the young master's hands?" They've always been in the young master's hands, the servant girl replied. Lady Tang didn't say much beyond a sound of agreement. Ouyang Ning Nuo was secretly delighted. Before he came, Ning Cheng had told him that he could forego everything else but the pear blossom rain needles. Han Yunqing and Tang Li hid behind them and almost laughed out loud. It was true that the pear blossom rain needles were in Tang Li's hands, but he'd used them all up on his escape from the wedding. Tang Zijin might not know this, but Lady Tang was the clearest. Han Yunqing had a good impression of Lady Tang to begin with, but now she liked her even more. Tang Li, your mother's so good, she said. Tang Li couldn't speak, but his face was full of pride. Long Fei Yi watched from the sidelines. It wasn't clear what he was thinking, but a faint trace of sadness rose to his lips. Ouyang Ning Nuo was waiting for Lady Tang to bring up the dowry, but she didn't. Ouyang Ning Nuo wished she wouldn't. He rose to his feet and said, leave the other trivial matters to the wedding nanny. It's getting late, so I'll take my leave now. Tang Zijin sighed. Tang Li had an engagement with Celestial Mountain's Tsang clan first. Now that something like this has happened, the Tang clan can only let the Tsang clan down. Ouyang Ning Nuo sighed as well to express his sympathy, but didn't voice his opinion. He'd leave the matter to the Tang clan and Sung Chiozi to deal with. Cloud Realm Trade Consortium would never offend Sung Chiozi. Farewell. Ouyang Ning Nuo was in a rush to leave, but Lady Tang suddenly called him back. Hold it. Ouyang Ning Nuo grew apprehensive, afraid that the Tang clan would invite people from Celestial Mountain as well. But Lady Tang only said, Sir Ouyang, Cloud Realm Trade Consortium shouldn't prepare any dowry for that girl Ning Jing either. Our Tang clan can afford to raise her, so we don't lack her things. As long as she's dressed up beautifully on the day of the wedding, that'll be enough, understood? Han Yunqing and Tang Li both muffled their mouths to keep from laughing out loud. Lady Tang was too ruthless. Her words were so domineering. With Ouyang Ning Jing's personality, wouldn't she have brought enough dowry to show off her strength to her mother-in-law? Han Yunqing suddenly recalled a saying. No matter how good a mother is, she'll never be a good mother-in-law. Ouyang Ning Nuo's heart sank. He knew that this negotiation had failed. He'd lost again and failed to meet any of his expectations. He even began to doubt his own negotiating skills. Had his skills deteriorated because he hadn't negotiated for so long? Who knew how Ning Cheng would react when he heard the results? In any case, Han Yunqing and the rest emerged from the back of the guest hall in high spirits. This matter was basically a success. Han Yunqing was about to speak with Lady Tang when the silent Aunt Ru spoke up. She said. Chapter 642. While everyone was happy, Aunt Ru suddenly added, Fei, Li's matters have come to an end. You haven't paid your respects to your mother in a long time, right? That one sentence instantly silenced everyone. Han Yunqing only knew that Long Fei Ye's birth parents were both members of the Tang clan. This was something he'd told her when they were still in the poison sect's forbidden grounds. She knew nothing else. Aunt Ru's words tugged at the heartstrings of everyone present. Their expressions varied as they harbored different thoughts. A complicated look flitted past Tang Zijin's eyes. He was about to speak when Long Fei Yi retorted, Who told you that Tang Li's matters were over? What kind of tone is that? Very well, you've grown up and your wings have hardened. Aunt Ru can't control you anymore, nor can she scold you. Is that so? Aunt Ru huffed. Before Han Yunqing showed up, Fei had always been polite to her and Tang Zijin. He'd never been so rude. Aunt Ru looked like she was flipping out at Long Fei Yi, but her eyes kept darting towards Han Yunqing. Han Yunqing had long gotten used to it. When they first met at the poison sect's forbidden grounds, she had a basic understanding of what kind of person Aunt Ru was. In a nutshell, she thought too highly of herself. Long Fei Yi simply ignored her, while Ling Ling said to Tang Li, "Find out who Tsang Chiozi sent down the mountain and personally apologize to him. Also, immediately announce your marriage with Ning Jing. The sooner the better." Aunt Ru had long gotten used to Long Fei Yi's indifference. She smiled coldly in her heart, confident that her question just then was enough to pique Han Yunqing's curiosity. Fei's birth parents had too many unspeakable secrets. She believed that no matter how much Fei doted on this woman, he wouldn't rashly tell her anything about his parents. Women were prone to jealousy and suspicion. The more they didn't know, the more suspicious they'd be. Once they suspected a secret, the misunderstanding would grow. With Fei's temper, he definitely didn't like women who pestered him endlessly. Aunt Ru was very satisfied with the foreseeable effect of her words. "That's right. Announce the wedding as soon as possible to prevent Cloud Realm Trade Consortium from going back on their word." Tang Zijin was still preoccupied with Tang Li's affairs. Ouyang Ning Nua was easy to fool, but Ning Cheng and Ning Jing weren't easy to deal with either. If they brought the contract back and Ning Cheng went back on his word, their efforts today would be in vain, and it would be even more troublesome. Thus, they had to strike while the iron was hot. As soon as the Cloud Realm Trade Consortium members at the foot of the mountain retreated, they'd spread the news of the wedding and make it a reality. "Sect Master Tang, you should be the one to make this announcement. You'd better reflect on yourself first, then give your son a good scolding to appease the public anger," Han Yunqing said indifferently. Tang Zijin nodded repeatedly. "Yes, esteemed Wang Fei is smart." Worry flashed through Aunt Ru's eyes. She had a faint feeling that Tang Zijin had been bewitched by Han Yunqing. "Sect Master Tang, we can't mess up the order of these two matters. We need to announce the wedding to the world first, then have Tang Li offer a humble apology. That way, Tang Li will have Cloud Realm Trade Consortium backing him up. Perhaps Tsang Chiozi will show some mercy then," Han Yunqing said seriously. She wasn't trying to curry favor with Tang Li, but hoping from the bottom of her heart that Tang Li could survive this ordeal. Tang Zijin's friendliness towards Han Yunqing was all an act, but his view of the woman had changed after this incident. How great would it be if Han Yunqing had no ties to the Shadow Clan? That very day, Tang Zijin used his status as the Tang Clan master to make a public announcement. First, he admitted that he was wrong for not teaching his son, then cursed Tang Li bitterly. Finally, he explained that Tang Li had done such a foolish thing because he loved and adored Ning Jing too much. Next, he declared that Tang Li was engaged to Celestial Mountain's Tsang clan, so that Tsang clan would be the ones to blame for such a thing. He was willing to accept any punishment from the Tsang clan, but he had to take responsibility for Ning Jing to the end. Ouyang Ning Nua hadn't even returned to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium before the announcement was made. It only took a single day for the news to spread throughout Cloud Realm continent. Ning Cheng was still in Western Liang's morning court when he received the news. His cold face instantly turned black, leaving all the civil and military officials trembling in fear. They had no idea what was wrong with him. Once court was over, Ning Cheng ordered coldly, "Tell Ning Nua not to return to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, but to come here directly. Have him explain things to Ning Jing himself." As soon as he gave the order, Ning Jing stormed in angrily and slammed the letter in her hands on the table. "Big bro, let whoever agreed to have a child with them do it himself. I'm not having any." She had planned to have Tang Li marry into her family and put him under house arrest. But Ning Nua not only didn't agree, he even wanted her to have a child. Why didn't he just die? If Ning Cheng was standing in front of her right now, she'd definitely slap him a few times. Did that fellow's brain go bad because he hadn't done anything for so long? How could he agree to something like that? The Tang clan has already released the news. What else do you want? Ning Cheng asked coldly. Although he wasn't satisfied with the contract Ning Nua had brought back, he was satisfied with just one thing. He was satisfied that Tang Zijin hadn't agreed to marry into her family. If Tang Zijin agreed to marry into the family, he would definitely become suspicious of this matter. Judging from the current situation, Tang Zijin and Long Feiyi probably didn't know each other, just as their investigations had shown. So what if the news has been released? Ning Jing's eyes flashed shrewdly. Big bro, why don't we kill Tang Li and shift the blame to the Tsang clan? In the future, you'll still be the one to decide on little sister's marriage. If she had to have a child, she'd rather give up the chance to kill Tang Li. Ning Cheng looked at his little sister as a cold smile rose to his lips. A woman's heart was the most poisonous of all. He liked it. But now that things had come to this, he wasn't going to give up on the fat meat that was the Tang clan. He was looking forward to the pear blossom rain needles. You're underestimating Tsang Qiuzi too much, Ning Qing said before waving a hand to dismiss Ning Jing. He leaned lazily against his chair and stretched out his legs on the table, his posture indolent yet domineering. Big bro. Ning Jing stomped her feet angrily. Ning Qing didn't even look at her. Get out. Big bro, I don't care. This matter, before Ning Jing could finish, Ning Qing cut her off with a cold voice. From now on, if anything happens to Tang Li, I'll blame it all on you. You'll be punished according to clan rules. Clan rules, the D clan only had one rule, anyone who violated the clan elders would be expelled from the clan. Hadn't Ning Jing done everything so she could stay in the D clan for the rest of her life and be loyal to them? Once she was expelled, what was the point of living? Ning Jing didn't say a word. She stood there for a long time before turning to leave. Fine, she'd accept the marriage agreement. But whether or not she could bear a son depended on Tang Li's skills. Once Ning Jing was gone, Ning Qing took out a gold needle from his hairpin and toyed with it in his hands. It was certain that this needle belonged to Han Yunqing, but only Ning Qing himself knew where he'd gotten it. On the second day after news of the marriage between the Tang clan and Cloud Realm Trade Consortium spread, Tang Zijin found out that Tsang Qiuzi hadn't left Celestial Mountain yet. Although it was much easier to descend the mountain, Tsang Qiuzi didn't take the risk of descending after last winter's snow had sealed off many roads. Instead, he entrusted the marriage to Duan Muyao, who'd long left the mountain, and said that she could make the decisions on behalf of the Tsang clan. Fei, Tsang Qiuzi and Duan Muyao are fooling around so openly. Are they trying to show off their strength to you? Tang Zijin asked. In terms of seniority, martial arts skills, and reputation, Tsang Qiuzi couldn't compare to Kenzo, but he'd coveted Kenzo's position for a long time. Moreover, Duan Muyao was Kenzo's favorite disciple. Once Tsang Qiuzi and Duan Muyao hooked up, half of Celestial Mountain would belong to the two of them. Even Long Feiyi wouldn't be able to contend against them. Tang Li's marriage had caused a huge uproar, but Tsang Qiuzi had publicly asked Duan Muyao to handle it on his behalf. It was obvious that he wanted Long Feiyi to know that he and Duan Muyao were close. If this wasn't a show of strength, then was he showing off? Long Feiyi nodded before asking Tang Li, "Is Duan Muyao 18 yet?" "She's full, she's been full for a long time." Tang Li asked seriously. "What do you have in mind?" On the side, Han Yunqing immediately pricked up her ears to listen, but Long Feiyi didn't answer. Instead, he said, "Go ask for punishment, but be careful. Tsang Qiuzi isn't trying to show off, but borrow someone else's knife to kill him." After the Tang clan's announcement, Tsang Qiuzi would be cursed by the people if he punished Tang Li severely. They'd call him narrow-minded and narrow-minded. But if he left the matter to Duan Muyao, Tsang Qiuzi could shirk all responsibility even if she ended up crippling Tang Li. "Old man, let's go together." Tang Zijin grew nervous. Lady Tang stood up as well. "Tsang Qiuzi is too sinister. I'll go too." "It's enough for old man to go. You don't even know martial arts, so what are you going to do?" Tang Zijin asked unhappily. "I know how to use assassination weapons," Lady Tang said righteously. "If we bring the Tang clan's most powerful weapons, we won't be afraid no matter how many people Celestial Mountain has." Tang Zijin wanted to stop her again, but Lady Tang grabbed Aunt Ru's hand. You have to go too. Otherwise, they'll think there's no one left in the Tang clan and bully us again. Aunt Ru seemed to dread Lady Tang and only agreed with a single word. Although Tang Zijin was unhappy, he didn't stop her. Han Yunqing could tell that Lady Tang was dragging Aunt Ru away on purpose, but she didn't know why she was doing so. After making up his mind, Tang Li stripped off his clothes and tied a few thorns to his back. Then he walked down the mountain towards Duanmu Yao's inn. With the three elders accompanying him, Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing didn't have to worry about Tang Li. After sending off Tang Li and the others, Han Yunqing took Long Fei Yi's hand and asked, Duanmu Yao's already 18 years old. Her safety has nothing to do with you anymore, right? Long Fei Yi gave an affirmative answer. Han Yunqing was overjoyed. She took his hands and made him look at her. Long Fei Yi, from now onwards, before she could finish, Long Fei Yi interrupted her. This prince is only responsible for you. As he spoke, he seemed to be afraid that Han Yunqing wouldn't believe him, so he leaned down and planted a deep kiss on Han Yunqing's lips. Han Yunqing pursed her lips. She wanted to be more serious and domineering when she made her request, but in the end, she said, "Give me another stamp." What? Long Fei Yi didn't understand what she meant. Chapter 643. Stamp it again. Long Fei Yi didn't even have a written agreement with her. How was she going to stamp it? Could it be that she wanted him to write it down in black and white and stamp it again? You don't believe this, prince? Long Fei Yi asked seriously. Han Yunqing shook her head. I'll believe you if you stamp it again. Long Fei Yi was rather disappointed. He said coldly, if you don't believe me, it's useless no matter how much it's written in black and white. Han Yunqing knew that he had misunderstood. She smiled and looked at him without saying a word. Long Fei Yi's mood was ruined. He didn't intend to continue this topic and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, Han Yunqing really let him go. Seeing that he had walked away, she said, Long Fei Yi, are you sure you don't want to stamp it? Then I'll find someone else to do it. She was threatening him. She was threatening him. He immediately turned back and stared at her with a dangerous gaze. His face was obviously stormy, but all the warnings that were about to come out of his mouth turned into compromises. He said, serve me with brush and ink. He didn't know when it started, but he couldn't throw a tantrum in front of her. Han Yunqing finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. Her laughter was exceptionally happy. What are you laughing at? Long Fei Yi felt that he was a little cowardly again. Han Yunqing hooked her finger and motioned for him to come closer. He obediently leaned over. Who knew that she would actually tiptoe and wrap her arms around his neck? Although it wasn't a lot, Long Fei Yi was very familiar with this action. He couldn't guess what this woman was trying to do, but he firmly and domineeringly wrapped his arms around Han Yunqing's waist. He didn't allow her to regret it and didn't allow her to escape. One looked up, the other looked down. The tips of their noses touched. They were very close. He could smell the beauty of her orchid breath. She could feel the heat and roughness of his breathing. What are you laughing at? As he asked, he tilted his head and used the tip of his nose to gently rub against hers. His lips inadvertently brushed past hers. It was neither close nor distant, cold and evil. She knew what he wanted to do. So stupid. She couldn't help but laugh again. This woman was definitely the first woman in the world to call him stupid. He suddenly lifted her chin. Ha, how is this prince stupid? She suddenly pulled his hand away, stood on her tiptoes, and planted a heavy kiss on his lips. Stamp it. If you dare lie to me, I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life. Stamps can be stamped like this. Why didn't he know that this woman had such a bad side? He laughed. Not enough. She also smiled, knowing that he would feel that it was not enough. Long Fei Yi, it's been so long since I kissed you. Yunxi really missed it. Long Fei Yi was about to kiss her when Han Yunqing kissed him first. She kissed his cold lips gently, trying to warm him up. Long Fei Yi was surprised and pleasantly surprised. He hated it when women took the initiative, but he especially liked it when she took the initiative. He wanted to let her kiss him and feel her rare passion. Unfortunately, he couldn't hold back after a while and deepened the kiss. He even stuck his tongue into her mouth to provoke her. Han Yunqing didn't show any weakness, but took the initiative to explore his lips. Their lips and teeth intertwined in an intense kiss. Neither he nor she seemed to be satisfied no matter how much they gave or how much they took. It was as if something was missing. Long Fei Yi tightly wrapped his arms around Han Yunqing's waist so that she was pressed against him. He really wanted to take this woman right here on this mountain. But in the end, he was the first to let go. Han Yunqing's eyes flashed with disappointment as soon as he did, but she didn't show it. She still blushed now, but she wasn't the same girl from 2 to 3 years ago who didn't know what to do with a single peck. If she wanted to kiss him, then she wanted to kiss him. He was her husband, so everything was right and proper. Many times, just because she didn't ask didn't mean she didn't want to know, much less didn't mean she didn't mind. It was just that her personality was like this. Of course, it was right and proper. She would never ask for what was rightfully hers. What was the point of asking for it? She'd rather not have it. Long Fei Yi, why do you call your mother Imperial Mother? What kind of person is your father in the Tang sect? Does he have any title? Long Fei Yi, how many secrets are hidden in Heaven Mountain? I can give you enough time. You must not lie to me, even if it's just a sentence. The wind started to blow. Long Fei Yi hugged Han Yunqing from behind and wrapped her tightly in his large cloak. The two of them looked at the mountains in the distance and fell into deep thought. Long Fei Yi knew how smart Han Yunqing was and how deep her heart was. He also felt the change in her attitude towards him in the past 2 to 3 years. Ever since he was old enough to understand things, he'd loathed being stared at by love-struck women. But sometimes, he'd rather Han Yunqing be like she was in the beginning, staring at him in a daze. She'd be nervous, afraid, and stupid in front of him. Unfortunately, she rarely acted like that after their argument over Gu Qishao. Her change made him feel like he was losing control. He was afraid that she'd go further and further away until he couldn't catch her. He was afraid that Yunxi didn't love him as much as before. She was such a smart person, so why didn't she question him or suspect him? About Heaven Mountain and the Tang clan. He hated it when women were so suspicious of everything, but she was always an exception. He wanted to control everything about her and understand everything about her, but she never asked. Did that mean she didn't care? The wind whistled as he hugged her even tighter. Aunt Ru didn't understand Han Yunqing at all. Han Yunxi still hadn't asked Long Fei Yi about her provocation, much less Long Fei Ye's exceptions for Han Yunqing. Even if he couldn't answer, Long Fei Yi still hoped that Han Yunqing would care about him. But even without Aunt Ru's provocation, there was still a gap between them that neither of them could see. Could this gap be the last step of the 100 steps? Their lips still lingered on each other's lips as they fell silent. Suddenly, Han Yunqing turned around and leaned against Long Fei Ye's chest. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I'm a little tired," Han Yunqing said mildly. Long Fei Yi picked her up without a word and carried her back to rest. How could she fall asleep with him by her bedside? She didn't like to think too much and liked to do things casually, but today, her heart was heavy. She closed her eyes and let her mind wander into the poison storage space and began to cultivate. The first step of the poison storage space allowed her to freely take in her own poison, as well as the most poisonous things in the world. She had already mastered it, and now was the crucial moment to unlock the second step. The second step was to resist enemies. Once she mastered it, she could freely take in any poison that threatened her. Han Yunqing didn't think that far ahead of the third step. First, the second step was 10 times harder than the first. Being able to master the second step was already hard enough, let alone the third step. Also, the third step was to plunder. She could take in all the poisons in the world. Han Yunqing didn't like it, and didn't need it. So, her only wish now was to master the second step. As soon as Han Yunqing entered the poison storage space, it was as if she'd really fallen asleep. Long Fei tucked her in before leaving without a sound. While Aunt Ru wasn't here, he should go and pay his respects to his mother. Lady Tang had purposely led Aunt Ru away to urge him to go take a look. He'd forgotten how many years it had been since he'd paid his respects to his mother. His memory seemed to have stopped at the year she committed suicide. The Tang sect wasn't one of the 7 noble families, but rather the East Qin Shadow Guard. Strictly speaking, the Tang sect's status was far lower than the Bailey clan's. But because his mother had obtained imperial father's favor and gave birth to him, the Tang sect's words carried more weight in front of him than the Bailey clan's. The Tang sect was most famous for their hidden weapons, but they also had a secret art of poison. Like the 100 Poisons sect, the Tang sect's poison arts originated from the Poison sect. Because no one could take up the mantle, the Tang sect's poison branch gradually declined after the Poison sect was destroyed. His mother was in charge of the Tang sect's poison branch. When she learned that the perplexing butterfly illusion could rule the world, she spent her entire life searching for it, hoping to help Imperial Father recover East Qin. Unfortunately, before she could find the perplexing butterfly illusion, Imperial Father had already passed away. She'd placed all her hopes on him. Imperial Father's ambitions, her long-cherished wish, the Imperial family's revenge, and even the Tang sect's dream of becoming a noble family had all been placed on his shoulders. She'd given him the status of East Qin's Imperial Prince and helped him learn martial arts on Celestial Mountain. She'd nurtured the beauty's blood and arranged everything. Then, she'd said that she missed his Imperial Father. She'd left everything to him. She'd said that he would live on for her and his Imperial Father's sake. He had to live on with 2 lives to complete the mission they'd failed to complete. Then, right in front of him, she'd used a dagger to end her own life. He'd never understood love. That was the first time he'd understood that love could be so selfish. Long Fei Yi silently walked through the forest, seemingly aimless. He soon arrived at the shady side of Divine Dragon Mountain. Tang Yuan was buried in a cave on the side of the mountain. In truth, this was a joint grave. His Imperial Father had been buried here first. In order to hide his identity, he hadn't even erected a tombstone. Now, only his Imperial Mother's tombstone was erected on the grave. Long Fei Yi flew down from the cliff and stood in front of the grave with his hands clasped behind his back. He stood there for a long time. There was no sorrow or pain on his face, only his usual expressionless face. When his shoulders were strong enough to shoulder everything they'd done for him and his own dreams, he would no longer be angry when he faced them. His cold eyes were especially emotionless. He wasn't someone who liked to reminisce and didn't reminisce about the past. He stood there silently, not thinking about the past, only about the future. After a long time, he bowed 3 times and said, "Imperial Father, Imperial Mother, the Princess of Western Qin is mine. She's called Han Yunqing." He paused for a while and said, "This summer, I'll bring her to Celestial Mountain." After saying this, he didn't stay any longer and turned to leave. Summer would arrive in a little more than a month. By the time Long Fei Yi returned, Han Yunqing was still sleeping. He acted as if nothing had happened as he sat by the bed, watching over her. Unexpectedly, Han Yunqing slept all the way until the next day. As soon as she woke up, she saw Long Fei Yi leaning against her bed, sound asleep. A careful look at his face revealed his tiredness. Han Yunqing's heart ached as she gently stroked his stubbly chin. At this moment, Chu Shifen's anxious voice came from outside. "Your Highness, something's happened. Aunt Ru's in big trouble." Chapter 644. Something big has happened to Aunt Ru? Han Yunqing dropped her hand, but Long Fei Ye's eyes were still shut as if he hadn't woken up at all. Han Yunqing smiled silently, knowing that he didn't take the matter to heart. She also knew that he'd been pretending to be asleep this entire time. She was too lazy to pay Chu Shifeng any attention as he shouted outside. She nestled in Long Fei's arms and looked up at him, only to see that his smooth chin had grown a thin stubble overnight. It was a very manly sight. From her angle, he looked especially sexy. The stubble was prickly, but it didn't hurt. She stroked it lightly and played with it with amusement. At first, he didn't react, but his Adam's apple gradually moved. It was obvious that he was enduring. It tickles. Han Yunqing burst into laughter. What was Long Fei supposed to say? This woman's getting bolder and bolder. She's not as shy and timid as before, but she's still too inexperienced. She has no idea that she's playing with fire. He didn't know when it started, but he'd become extremely sensitive to her every move. It's asking for my life, but I can't stop myself, Chu Shifeng was still shouting outside the door. Your Highness, esteemed Wang Fei, are you inside? Something's happened to Aunt Ru. Something big has happened. Your Highness, if you're inside, answer this subordinate. Chu Shifeng had clearly seen His Highness return to the rooms with his own eyes. He'd been standing guard outside the door the entire time. His Highness and esteemed Wang Fei had to be inside, so why didn't they respond when he shouted so loudly? Previously, when they were in the house, all he had to do was shout outside the door and there would be a response. Chu Shifeng had no idea how many times he and Zhao Mama had ruined their master's plans, much less that their masters were no longer the same as before. They were no longer affected by their actions. Did something happen? Chu Shifeng felt that something was amiss the more he thought about it. He almost broke through the door. Fortunately, he recalled the kick he'd received at Jiangnan's Plum Blossom Sea. Thus, he silently retreated. He told himself that nothing would happen with His Highness Duke of Qin here. Then he simply stood guard while secretly wondering what the two masters were doing shut up in the middle of the day. What couldn't be paused? Chu Shifeng chuckled until his lips curled into an ambiguous grin. However, he quickly regained his senses. He hadn't even reported that something had happened to Aunt Ru. Aunt Ru crippled Duan Muyao. Your Highness, esteemed Wang Fei, did you hear that? Master, Aunt Ru crippled Duan Muyao. Crippled. As soon as these words came out, Long Fei Yi, who was immersed in the land of tenderness, instantly opened his eyes. Han Yunqing was also extremely shocked. How could this be? Han Yunqing should be celebrating the fact that Duan Muyao was crippled, but at this moment, she said rationally, oh no. Tang Li was going to apologize. Did Aunt Ru think that the trouble was not big enough? He actually crippled someone. Tang Zijin's announcement was wasted. What happened? Long Fei Yi asked. This subordinate isn't sure either. I just received news from a flying pigeon that Tang Li and the rest are on their way back, Chu Shifeng reported honestly. Han Yunqing and Long Fei Yi quickly washed up and tidied themselves up. As soon as they opened the door, Han Yunqing asked, what do you mean, crippled? Chu Shifeng still shook his head. The letter only said that she crippled someone. Go ask immediately. Long Fei Yi ordered unhappily. After Chu Shifeng left, Han Yunqing saw Long Fei Ye's stern expression and pretended to be jealous. So nervous? Long Fei Yi immediately grew serious. Tang Li will be very troublesome. And? Han Yunqing asked sourly. This fellow loved to get jealous, but he didn't seem to like other people getting jealous. She wasn't childish enough to get jealous over something like this. But when it came to Duan Muyao, she was childish and willful. She liked to see this icy, taciturn man rush to clarify things and explain himself. Long Fei Yi, Long Fei Yi. Why didn't I get to know you before Duan Muyao did? If I knew you before, I'd never let you have a junior sister like her. Duan Mu Yao probably came prepared. Long Fei Yi was still very serious. Now Han Yunqing realized the gravity of the situation. You're saying, she hurt herself on purpose? Long Fei Yi nodded. Zhang Qiuzi had probably pushed Duan Mu Yao forward to use her to punish Tang Li. But Duan Mu Yao was no fool. Instead of whipping Tang Li and offending Cloud Realm Trade Consortium, she'd rather put on a show and let the Tang clan injure her instead. That way, the Tang clan would be the subject of ridicule again, while Zhang Qiuzi would have even more reason to make things difficult for them. Duan Mu Yao could also stay out of the matter without taking any responsibility. How sinister. Han Yunqing grew doubtful. Aunt Ru used assassination weapons? Did she cripple her hands or legs? What kind of weapons could cripple someone? Assassination weapons were either used for poisoning or to hit vital points. Han Yunqing couldn't imagine how they could be used to cripple someone. Long Fei Yi didn't care how Duan Mu Yao was crippled, but said thoughtfully, Aunt Ru wouldn't be so rash. When facing Han Yunqing, Aunt Ru's unreasonable tantrums were all an act. Long Fei Yi knew full well how shrewd she was. Even if Duan Mu Yao had come prepared, Aunt Ru wouldn't fall for a trap. While they were talking, Chu Shifeng arrived with definite news. Your Highness, Duan Mu Yao's dantian has been injured. Aunt Ru's needles struck her dantian acupoint. The situation is very serious. We'll have to wait for the clan head and the rest to know the details. They're already on their way. Long Fei Yi and Han Yunqing exchanged glances. Han Yunqing didn't understand martial arts, but she knew that the dantian was where qi gathered. It was directly related to internal energy cultivation. Without internal energy, martial arts were just flowery and impractical. She didn't know how serious her injuries were, but if they were serious, then Duan Mu Yao really was crippled. She'd already lost her status as Western Zhou's princess. Once her martial arts were crippled, how was she supposed to survive on Celestial Mountain? Long Fei Ye's thoughts were completely different from Han Yunqing's. He didn't care about Duan Mu Yao's future prospects at all, but worried about his master. Even if Duan Mu Yao lost her martial arts, she could still speak in front of his master. Zhang Qiuzi was only willing to hook up with Duan Mu Yao because of her place in his master's heart. If Duan Mu Yao's injuries were serious, his master would probably get involved. He hadn't even set foot on Celestial Mountain yet, but the mountain was already in trouble. If not for the fact that the Tang clan was implicated in this matter, Long Fei Yi would have suspected that Aunt Ru had done it on purpose. After all, Duan Mu Yao wouldn't risk injuring her dantian over such a simple matter. As for the details, they had to wait for Tang Zijin and the rest to come back. Tang Zijin and the rest returned that very night. After some questioning, Han Yunqing and Long Fei Yi finally found out what had happened. Tang Li had brought a bramble to ask for punishment, while Duan Mu Yao had tried to make things difficult for him. Duan Mu Yao's mouth was fierce, and she cursed Tang Li viciously. Lady Tang couldn't take it anymore and made the first move, resulting in a fight between the two sides. Aunt Ru seemed to have already been cursed by Tang Zijin on the way here, because her expression was ugly. She didn't say a word. Han Yunqing wasn't stupid enough to hit the muzzle of a gun, but Long Fei Yi was more direct. Of all the places you could hurt her, you had to hurt her dantian? My master took her in as a disciple because she could guard her dantian and unblock her 8 meridians at such a young age. Of course, Kenzo doted on Duan Mu Yao for other reasons, but the girl's innate talents were indispensable. Her sword was about to stab me in the face. If I didn't do anything, was I supposed to wait for death? Aunt Ru replied impatiently. Everyone fell silent at her words. Long Fei Yi didn't retort either. After a while, Aunt Ru seemed to have calmed down. She looked between Tang Zijin and Tang Li before saying, I'll shoulder the consequences of my own actions. If Elder Kenzo blames me, I'll take the blame myself. Like Zhang Qiuzi, Elder Kenzo didn't know of the relationship between the Tang clan and Long Fei Yi. No matter what, Long Fei Yi had no way of explaining things. You'll take the blame yourself? How are you going to do that? Why don't you just kill Duanmu Yao and pay a life for a life? You hurt her Dantian, so how are you going to return it to her? Tang Zijin was about to die from anger. As he spoke, he didn't forget to shoot Tang Li a cold look. He wished he could kill this unfilial son with his eyes and end all troubles once and for all. If he had been obedient back then, he might have been able to hold a grandson now instead of having to deal with this huge pile of trouble. Neither Celestial Mountain nor Cloud Realm Trade Consortium was easy to deal with. Aunt Ru was rendered speechless by Tang Zijin's outburst. Enough. It's already happened, so what's the use of yelling at Iru? As I see it, that cheap girl deserved it. Who told her to curse Tang Li like that? She's so young with such a venomous mouth. Isn't she afraid of retribution? It was rare for Lady Tang to stand on the same side as Aunt Ru. She turned to Long Fei Yi and said, Fei, it's a good thing you didn't agree to the marriage alliance back then. Otherwise, your mother would be so angry she'd come back to life. Enough. What do you know? You have long hair and short eyes. Tang Zijin was about to lose his mind. He didn't want to pay attention to any of the women in the room anymore. He looked seriously at Long Fei Yi and asked, Fei, what do you think we should do about this? How are her injuries? What did she say? Long Fei Yi asked. I'm not sure. Aunt Ru used a meteor dart. Duanmu Yao spat up multiple mouthfuls of blood on the spot. She said this wasn't over yet. Old man wanted to explain, but that damned girl left too quickly. She probably went to treat her injuries, Tang Zijin replied. Meteor dart. Long Fei Yi muttered to himself, before asking, how far away was it? Meteor dart was extremely fast, so its power was immense as well. If it was used at close range, the consequences would be unthinkable. Tang Zijin understood meteor dart even better than Long Fei Yi. The scene had been so chaotic and sudden that he didn't have time to see clearly before Duanmu Yao left. About 10 paces, Aunt Ru added in a low voice. Long Fei Yi and Tang Zijin exchanged glances. 10 paces. Duanmu Yao would have been seriously injured at that distance. Long Fei Yi fell silent for a while before saying, prepare to face Celestial Mountain head-on. And also, report this to Cloud Realm Trade Consortium immediately. Just say that Duanmu Yao spoke rudely and insulted Ning Jing, so the Tang clan accidentally injured her. They could only win over Cloud Realm Trade Consortium support first. As for how Duanmu Yao would react, they could only wait and see. Aunt Ru didn't seem to have done it on purpose, nor was it likely that Duanmu Yao would take such a huge risk against the Tang clan. Han Yunqing only stared at Aunt Ru. Could this really have been an accident? Was it really an accident? Chapter 645. Was Duanmu Yao's actions a conspiracy, or an accident? Let's see how Duanmu Yao will deal with the Tang clan. By now, news of Tang Li's humble apology had spread like wildfire. The cursed Tang Li had earned more or less sympathy and forgiveness. Some even said that he was a responsible man. Han Yunqing heard the reports from the servants and sighed with emotion. What's wrong with this world? If Tang Li really did something so humiliating, she'd never treat him as a friend again. She didn't know what the people outside were thinking, but some of them actually forgave Tang Li. Inside the room, everyone was still sitting. No one blamed Aunt Ru anymore, but waited for news from Duanmu Yao's side. If her injuries were light, there might be room to turn the situation around. If they were serious, then the Tang clan would be offending old Kenzo instead of Tsangchozi. The wait was long and arduous. An entire night passed without news. Lady Tang stretched lazily. Everyone, go rest. If it's a blessing, it's not a disaster. If it's a disaster, we can't avoid it. She'd hardly finished speaking when Chu Shifeng rushed in. Your Highness, there's a letter from old Kenzo. Tang Zijin's heart trembled with fear. So fast. Duan Muyao must have told on us. Lady Tang said hatefully. But Chu Shifeng only explained, it's not for the Tang clan, but for His Highness. A letter from old Kenzo to Long Fei Yi. A coincidence? Or did old Kenzo find out about Long Fei Ye's relationship with the Tang clan? How did he know? The atmosphere grew tense as everyone stared at the letter in Chu Shifeng's hands, their hearts trembling with fear. No one noticed the satisfied smile in Aunt Ru's eyes. Long Fei Yi was still calm as he slowly opened the letter. No one else dared to approach, but Han Yunqing stood by his side to read with him. As she read, her face grew gloomy. What's going on? Tang Zijin couldn't help but ask. His original plan was to leave Long Fei an escape route at Celestial Mountain. If he ended up hurting Long Fei instead, how was he supposed to face his dead little sister? Han Yunqing returned to her seat in silence. Long Fei Yi turned to look at her. A helpless smile flitted across his lips. He didn't say anything and just tossed the letter to Tang Zijin. The moment Tang Zijin received the letter, everyone gathered around him. Aunt Ru was the last to lean over. She seemed to know the contents of the letter and was just pretending to read it. Unfortunately, Long Fei Ye's attention was all on Han Yunqing and he didn't notice her. Tang Zijin and the others only saw the first part of the content. Fortunately, his injuries aren't serious. He can still be saved. Tang Zijin sighed as he watched. Tang Li exhaled deeply. Aunt Ru, it's a good thing you didn't hit him too hard. Otherwise, the meteor dart would have been enough to make her suffer. Lady Tang exhaled as well. Duan Muyao's probably busy treating her injuries. Zijin, we have to announce the news before she does. Mother, find someone to talk to Ouyang Ningjing and have her denounce Duan Muyao. Then we'll apologize and mediate, Tang Li said hastily. After this incident, everyone had become experts at public relations. By now, Tang Zijin had finished reading the rest of the letter. Duan Muyao needs someone to help treat her injuries, he said. Tang Li and the rest looked over anxiously at his words. After reading the rest of the letter, Chu Shifeng was the first to look at Long Fei Yi. Everyone else followed suit. Old man Kenzo wrote that Duan Muyao had suffered internal injuries and needed someone with strong internal energy to treat her. He told Long Fei Yi to find Duan Muyao immediately. He had to treat her injuries and take good care of her. He had to find the person who hurt her and take revenge. As soon as the snow melted, he had to bring her back to Celestial Mountain to recover. Although it was written in words, the 3 words, must, made it so that everyone who read the letter could clearly sense the Sword Sect Master's commanding tone. They could also clearly sense the Sword Sect Master's love for Duan Muyao. Long Fei Yi didn't owe Duan Muyao anything. Old man Kenzo was being too biased. By the tea table, Han Yunqing was sitting with a serious expression while Long Fei stood in front of her. Although his back was tall and imposing, he still looked like someone who'd committed a crime and was waiting to be interrogated. Chu Shifeng couldn't help but gulp. Based on his experience, esteemed Wang Fei was truly unhappy. The problem was very serious. Tang Zijin and the rest of his family exchanged glances with complicated expressions. Aunt Ru stood on one side, staring cold at Han Yunqing with disdain and loathing in her eyes. She really didn't understand what right this damned girl had to throw a tantrum at Fei. Duan Muyao was deeply doted on by old man Kenzo and had the skills to hook up with Zhang Qiuzi. In the future, Celestial Mountain would be her world. What right did Han Yunqing have to compare to her? What right did she have to be jealous? In the silence of the room, they couldn't see Long Fei Ye's expression. All they could see was Han Yunqing's cold little face, which made everyone feel uneasy. Tang Zijin was the first to break the silence with a sigh. Thank goodness, thank goodness. It looks like old man Kenzo doesn't know anything. Duan Muyao only said she was injured, but didn't say how. Aunt Ru hastened to add, Duan Muyao came to help Tsang Chozi this time. She wouldn't be stupid enough to tell old man Kenzo. Those two elders of Celestial Mountain are still at odds with each other. Tang Zijin slapped his forehead. That's right, that's right. It was a false alarm. A false alarm. Old man Kenzo spends most of his time in closed-door cultivation and rarely comes out. He wouldn't know unless someone went to tell on her. Why didn't he think of that just then? As long as they didn't offend old man Kenzo, he wouldn't have to worry so much. With Duan Muyao in the way, who would dare to tell on her? As I see it, we're all overthinking things. Aunt Ru looked like she'd been wrongly accused, while Lady Tang laughed. Iru, you should have heard her a few more times if you knew this would happen. Lady Tang really didn't like Duan Muyao and wished she'd be the one to hurt her. At this moment, Long Fei slowly turned to look at her, causing her to shut her mouth resentfully. Fei, you should make a trip there as soon as possible. A long night is fraught with dreams. If Duan Muyao's injuries worsen and we can't hide the truth, the Tang clan will be in real trouble, Aunt Ru coaxed. Long Fei only pretended not to hear. Cold, he said to Tang Zijin, this matter doesn't involve my master, so it's not a big problem. There are many matters to attend to in Yaoshui, so I'll take my leave now. He's leaving. You're really not going to save Duan Muyao? Tang Zijin asked in alarm. It has nothing to do with you. Hurry up and take care of the Tang clan's troubles. Long Fei Ye's tone was cold and commanding. Everyone present besides Han Yunqing could tell that Long Fei Yi was speaking to Tang Zijin as the East Qin Crown Prince. Taking care of the Tang sect was Tang Zijin's responsibility as the sect master. It was also his responsibility as the head of the East Qin Imperial Shadow Guards. He restrained his emotions and replied to Long Fei Yi, don't worry. Aunt Ru stood on the sidelines, her expression like a storm. Unfortunately, Tang Zijin had no room to speak, much less her. Still, she knew that things wouldn't end so easily with Duan Muyao's personality. Long Fei Yi looked at Han Yunqing and didn't say a word. Instead, he held out his hand. Han Yunqing's emotions were written all over her face, but she still gave him her hand and rose to her feet. Just like that, the two of them walked out the door with their fingers interlocked. Chu Shifeng gave a start before chasing after them. He can't do this. Aunt Ru muttered next to Tang Zijin. Think of a way to persuade him. Even if he goes to check on Duan Muyao's injuries, it'll give us some assurance. Aya, so what if he doesn't go? Don't worry about Fei taking care of things. If he dares not go, then he must have the capital to back it up. Lady Tang relaxed after confirming that the Tang clan wasn't in danger. She added, even if he does go, he should delay it for a few days so Duan Muyao can suffer more. Tang Li muttered to himself, with sister-in-law here, my big brother can't go even if he wants to. Mind your own business. Tang Zijin reprimanded him. Tang Li gave Lady Tang a look before mother and son quickly slipped away. Seeing that no one was around, Aunt Ru muttered, aren't you going to use this chance to put pressure on Han Yunqing? The situation in the West is still a mess, so don't add to Fei's troubles. I heard from my subordinates that Fei is planning to go to Celestial Mountain. We'll see when the time comes. Tang Zijin was very cautious and didn't forget to warn Aunt Ru. Don't act blindly without thinking. You know Fei's temper too. The more you oppose him, the more he won't listen to you. They've been married for years now, but I don't see any signs of movement in Han Yunqing's stomach. I doubt Fei sees her as one of his own. As a chauvinistic old man like Tang Zijin saw it, if a man truly liked a woman, he'd definitely want her to bear his children. But from Aunt Ru's perspective, things were different. She said, Han Yunqing's gotten too many exceptions. Don't you think Fei's changed? As an old woman, Aunt Ru saw it, if a man truly liked a woman, he'd be willing to change for her sake. Let's talk about this another time. Send someone to talk to Ning Jing and figure out how to deal with this. Tang Zijin mused. If Duanmu Yao doesn't dare to make a scene at Celestial Mountain, then I'll have to strike back. Otherwise, Zhang Qiuzi will really think the Tang clan is easy to bully. Done. Ning Jing, that girl, must have a way to deal with things like this, Aunt Ru smiled. You don't need to get involved in this matter. Just help prepare for the wedding, Tang Zijin intoned. Send an invitation to the Duke of Qin's estate as well. Put on a show for Ning Cheng. By now, Han Yunqing and Long Feiyi had already reached the foot of the mountain. The carriage driver who came to pick them up immediately sensed that something was amiss. He stood on the side and bowed respectfully. The carriage was very tall, but he hadn't prepared a footrest. Because this was His Highness Duke of Qin's personal carriage, esteemed Wang Fei was the only woman who could climb up. His Highness Duke of Qin always carried her up without a footrest. As usual, His Highness Duke of Qin carried esteemed Wang Fei into the carriage before climbing in himself. The driver waited for a long time, but His Highness Duke of Qin didn't say where they were going. He couldn't help but ask, Your Highness, are we going back to Yaoshui, or? A cold voice came from inside the carriage. Wait in the distance. If it weren't for the fact that the two masters' expressions were not good, the coachman would have definitely misunderstood when he heard the words wait in the distance. Although he was very curious, the coachman still walked away. Inside the carriage. Chapter 646. A carriage was parked in the quiet mountain forest. An outsider would only think that this carriage was spacious, but an expert would be able to tell that this was no ordinary carriage. This was a carriage with 1 or 2 horses, which meant that there were 4 horses driving the same carriage. This was the emperor's carriage, and not just anyone could use such a standard. The body of the carriage was made of precious Phoebe Jinan wood, and the color was mesmerizing and full of spiritual energy. Even collectors would find it difficult to make Phoebe Jinan wood ornaments so uniform, but this large carriage was able to do it. There were no intricately carved beams or painted rafters on the carriage, nor were there any signs of the owner's identity. There were only a few simple carvings, which were not conventional and showed off their temperament. The 4 windows of the carriage were wrapped in exquisite golden silk, completely covering the inside of the carriage. It invisibly emitted a mysterious aura that made people want to peek inside. The carriage had 4 wheels, which were large and thick, and had excellent shock absorption. It must be mentioned that the body of the carriage was extremely large, and could fit 4 or 5 people at the same time without feeling crowded. Just like the simple exterior, the interior of the carriage was also very simple, but the style was completely different. It was so extravagant that it made people's hair stand up. There was only one spacious warm couch in the carriage, and it was covered with a very rare natural purple fox fur. The warm couch could be used to sit, lean, or lie down. There were 2 golden pillows on the left and right of the couch for leaning. In the middle was a small square table made of Phoebe Jinan wood, and on top of it was a Ru kiln tea set. In front of the warm couch was a bronze stove for heating purposes. The design was exquisite, and the workmanship was exquisite. When it burned, there was no smoke, not to mention charcoal. The interior of the carriage was covered with a tiger skin carpet, which was extremely luxurious. This was His Highness Duke of Qin's personal carriage, a place that countless women dreamed of. Not to mention sitting on it, even just looking inside the carriage was enough to make one have no regrets in life. At this time, Han Yunqing was sitting in the carriage, sulking. She sat on the right side of the warm couch, leaning on a high pillow and looking down at her feet. Her unhappiness was written all over her face, and she looked like she wanted strangers to disturb her. Long Feiyi sat on the left side, silently looking at her. His brows were slightly furrowed, and his deep, dark eyes revealed a bit of helplessness, a bit of doting, and a bit of worry. In short, he didn't know what to do with this woman. There was almost nothing in the world that was difficult for him. There were many things that he couldn't solve in a short period of time, but he had a plan in his heart and was confident of solving them. However, he just couldn't handle this woman. Compared to crying, he was more afraid that she would get angry silently. Han Yunqing was indeed angry. She didn't even bother to ask him if he was going to save her. Just yesterday, he had promised her that he would only be responsible for her. If he dared to mention anything about saving her today, she wouldn't mind poisoning him until his limbs were weak and then throwing him into a vat of vinegar to soak for 3 days and 3 nights. Let him know what it means to be jealous. Fortunately, Long Fei Yi didn't mention a word about it. He said, "Shall we go back to Yaoshui? How are you going to explain this to your master?" Han Yunqing asked calmly. This was a huge problem. Let's go back first. Facing Duan Muyao, Long Fei Yi didn't need to think too much. But facing his master, who had loved him like a father, he had to think. Where's the letter? Han Yunqing asked. Long Fei Yi obediently gave her the letter from the old man in Kenzhou. Han Yunqing sorted through the contents before calling Chu Shifeng over. Cold, she said, if you can't find the person, return it. If you send it back again, you're not allowed to accept it. Outside, Chu Shifeng almost laughed out loud. Only esteemed Wang Fei could think of something like that. It was true that it was possible for a flying hawk to fail to find the person who sent the letter. Flying hawks couldn't speak, so who would know the truth if they sent the original letter back? Most of the time, it was assumed that they couldn't find the recipient. In any case, the old man in Kenzhou rarely contacted His Highness over the years, so it was normal for a flying hawk to fail to find the person after 3 or 4 trips. Inside the carriage, Long Fei Ye's lips had long drawn up into a beautiful curve. He looked at Han Yunqing and couldn't resist the urge to touzle her beautiful bangs. He admired her cleverness as much as her petty cleverness. As soon as he extended his hand, Han Yunqing brushed it aside. She didn't speak to him, but asked Chu Shifeng cold, "Why aren't you going yet?" Chu Shifeng had long taken the letter, but he had to wait for His Highness's orders. Esteemed Wang Fei could make decisions on other matters, but Celestial Mountain was a special case. He still had to follow His Highness's orders. "What are you spacing out for?" Long Fei Yi quickly spoke up. Chu Shifeng had been scolded twice, but he was still willing to endure it. "Yes, this subordinate will do it right away." Chu Shifeng had followed His Highness Duke of Qin for so long that he knew what kind of person Duan Muyao was. He'd long wanted nothing more than for His Highness to cut ties with that woman. Once Chu Shifeng left, the two of them fell silent again. Long Fei Yi kept looking at Han Yunqing as if waiting for something. But after a while, Han Yunqing didn't pursue the matter. Instead, she intoned, "Let's go back." Long Fei Yi gave a start. He looked at her as if he wanted to speak, but stopped himself. After a while of silence, he saw that Han Yunqing didn't ask for his opinion, so he simply said, then he called for the driver to set off. Han Yunqing immediately turned to look at him, only to see him staring out the window with a stiff expression. Her brows were creased into a frown. She wanted to say something, but in the end she shook her head and looked out the window as well. After a long while, Long Fei Yi glanced at her. Seeing her unmoved expression, his handsome brows creased as well. His eyelids drooped as he steeped the tea without making a sound. Usually, he handed her the first cup, but now he was pouring it for himself. The wheels of the carriage grew louder, breaking the silence of the forest and making the interior of the carriage seem even quieter. In the middle of the warm couch was a small tea table. Long Fei Yi leaned against the table and drank his tea expressionlessly. Han Yunqing sat to the side, far away from him. Just like that, they remained silent for the entire morning. The atmosphere in the carriage was so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. Even the driver sitting outside could feel the immense pressure. He carefully drove the carriage, afraid that he would make a mistake and become His Highness Duke of Qin's punching bag. It was already past noon when the carriage arrived at the county seat. The bustle outside made the carriage even quieter. This kind of atmosphere made one feel uneasy. Finally, the driver couldn't help but ask in a low voice, "Your Highness, would you like to arrange lunch?" After all, His Highness Duke of Qin could never bear to let esteemed Wang Fei go hungry. He had never let esteemed Wang Fei go hungry on a long journey. What kind of major event had happened that made His Highness forget about eating? "What do you want to eat?" Long Fei Yi asked indifferently. "Anything," Han Yunqing replied. Long Fei Yi didn't ask any more questions. He instructed the driver, "Find a clean place." Then, the two of them fell into silence again. Before long, the driver found the most expensive restaurant in the county seat and booked a private room. "Your Highness, it's ready. The first room on the right on the second floor. The waiter is already waiting there." Long Fei Yi stood up and was about to get off when Han Yunqing's gaze finally fell on him. She was probably tormenting him on purpose. After he got off the carriage, she calmly said, "Long Fei Yi." Normally, he would respond with an lift the curtain, and carry her down. But right now, he only asked indifferently, "What is it?" Seeing this, the coachman didn't know whether or not he should come over and wait on them. His Highness Duke of Qin had stolen his job, and now that His Highness Duke of Qin wasn't going to wait on them, should he hurry up and put up the footstool? The driver was still hesitating when Han Yunqing suddenly shouted angrily, "Aren't you going to explain to me? You, get in the carriage." The driver's face turned green with fright. It wasn't that he was frightened by esteemed Wang Fei's sudden anger, but that he couldn't imagine that someone would dare to be so fierce to His Highness Duke of Qin. No, this wasn't just fierce, it was fierce giving an order. But the coachman saw His Highness Duke of Qin standing outside the carriage and laughing. Just a moment ago, His Highness Duke of Qin had been wearing a face as cold as ice, but now he was pursing his lips and silently, snickering. The driver couldn't help but look to the west. The sun hadn't risen from the west yet. What was wrong with His Highness Duke of Qin? Although he doted on this woman, it wasn't to the extent that he would smile after being scolded. Seeing His Highness Duke of Qin quickly return to the carriage, the driver shook his head. Outsiders couldn't understand the world between His Highness and esteemed Wang Fei. He very consciously waited in the distance. After Long Fei Yi got on the carriage, the smile on his face had long disappeared. He asked indifferently, "Explain what?" It would have been better if he hadn't said anything. As soon as he said this, the anger that Han Yunqing had been suppressing all morning exploded. "Explain what?" she asked incredulously. "So you don't think there's any need to explain?" She had been angry for so long, her displeasure written all over her face, but he hadn't explained a single word to her. If she didn't ask, would he be like before and not say anything? Would he only be willing to talk when she forced him and chased him? "Why should I?" Han Yunqing was so angry that her entire body felt unwell. This time, Long Fei Yi really didn't understand. "What, why should I? Why should your master want you to wait on her? Who is she to you? Isn't she already 18 years old? Don't tell me your master doesn't know that she's already 18 years old." Han Yunqing questioned word by word, "Why should he order you around like this? Do you owe her anything? Are you her father, her older brother, or her husband?" Long Fei Yi didn't like these words, but he didn't have a chance to explain or refute. Han Yunqing continued to ask angrily, "Or have you always taken care of her like this before? Are you used to it?" Han Yunqing wasn't just angry. She was furious. Furious. She wasn't jealous of Duan Muyao. She just couldn't accept the fact that the old man in Kenzhou ordered Long Fei Yi to wait on Duan Muyao like this. Why should he do this? 3 musts in a row, an absolute order. What was this? What did the old man in Kenzhou take the arrogant and high and mighty Long Fei Yi for? Long Fei Yi knew that she was angry, but he didn't expect her to be so angry. Moreover, she was angry at his master. He looked at Han Yunqing playfully and realized that this woman looked even better when she was angry than when she was serious. "Answer me. Han Yunqing said angrily. Han Yunqing, I thought you would just let it go. He laughed. Who's going to let it go? You're thinking too much. Han Yunqing was so angry that she didn't notice Long Fei Ye's happiness at all. He cared so much about whether she minded or not. Answer me. She was very fierce. What does your master want? He doesn't know that this prince already has you. I'll bring you to see him when we go up the mountain in a few days, Long Fei Yi said indifferently. Han Yunqing pushed his hand away. So, he wants to set you up with Duan Muyao. Did he order you around like this before? Chapter 647. In the past, Long Fei Yi replied, I didn't spend much time at Tian Shan. Before I turned 18, I went there once a year. After that, I didn't go much. I haven't been back for 3 or 4 years now. Han Yunqing didn't say anything. She just narrowed her eyes at him. Long Fei Yi knew that he didn't answer the main point. He didn't know if it was difficult to coax other women, but he knew that he couldn't coax this one. She either didn't ask, or once she did, she would get to the bottom of it. Every time I went up the mountain and received master's guidance, I would go into seclusion to cultivate. After I came out of seclusion, I would immediately leave the mountain, Long Fei Yi said. Didn't you go up and down the mountain together? Didn't you send her back to Western Zhou's imperial city? Han Yunqing asked angrily. She wasn't a narrow-minded person, but when it came to Long Fei Yi, she was especially narrow-minded and narrow-minded. She couldn't tolerate even the slightest stain. This man had to belong to her completely. She refused to share anything with him, whether it was in the past or in the future. Long Fei Yi didn't answer. He just looked at her and smiled helplessly. What are you laughing at? For the first time in her life, Han Yunqing was almost angered to death. Long Fei Yi ignored her and shouted at the coachman outside, go and order some dishes first. Give me a plate of vinegar cabbage. Han Yunqing flew into a rage out of humiliation and kicked him. Long Fei Yi, I'm not joking with you. You're still hung up on Duanmu Bei's words. Long Fei Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't he already explain clearly to Duanmu Bei when he was in Western Zhou? This woman actually knew how to bring up old scores. Then didn't your master often order you to take care of her? Did you go? This was definitely something that Han Yunqing minded the most. Last time, when Duanmu Yao came to find Long Fei Yi on Elder Kenzo's orders, he followed her without a word. This showed how important Elder Kenzo was to him. Based on the letter from the old man in Kenzo, it was obvious that this was not the first time he ordered Long Fei Yi to do so. God knows how many times he had given this order. Long Fei Yi looked at her. There was a complicated look in his eyes, but he did not answer. Han Yunqing also looked at him and waited. But after waiting for a long time, he didn't say anything. She couldn't care less about being angry. Her heart was thumping wildly and her brows were tightly knitted together. She was very nervous. Answer me. The more nervous she was, the fiercer she became. The past, Long Fei Yi had just opened his mouth when Han Yunqing suddenly covered his mouth and said bluntly, enough. What's done is done. I'm hungry. Let's eat. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. Her face was even more like a child's in June, changing at will. Just as she was about to get out of the car, Long Fei Yi suddenly hugged her waist from behind and pulled her into his embrace. Hee, you're not angry anymore. Han Yunqing shook her head. Why is that? Long Fei asked with interest. Unexpectedly, Han Yunqing said, Long Fei Yi, I'm scared. She turned around and looked at him seriously. Long Fei Yi, I'm scared. I'm scared that no matter how hard I try, I won't be able to erase your past. I won't be able to be your one and only. Tell me, what should I do? She had always been a person who didn't believe in heaven or earth. She only believed in herself. No matter how difficult it was, as long as she wanted to do it, she would definitely be able to do it. However, she couldn't do anything about his past. She couldn't participate in the things that he had experienced. She couldn't stop him from doting on others. How helpless. Long Fei Ye's heart trembled slightly. He couldn't help but hug Han Yunqing tighter, wishing that he could rub her into his body. This was probably the longest confession he had ever heard. She let him hug her tightly and said frankly, I mind. I mind a lot. Long Fei Yi, what should we do? If she was facing someone else, perhaps she would be able to get past this hurdle in her heart. After all, she was such a carefree woman. However, facing him, she couldn't convince herself to ignore and forget him. Thinking about it, she would feel terrible and suffocated. He gently patted her back and said mildly, Are you that greedy? Han Yunqing replied sadly, Yes, unfortunately. I can't be greedy anymore. Long Fei wanted to laugh, but his heart ached at the same time. He'd never seen Han Yunqing so despondent before. He buried his head by her ear and was practically biting it as he said word by word, Han Yunqing, remember this. This prince will only have you in this lifetime. This prince will only serve you, no matter if it's in the past or in the future. There will only be you and no one else. As he spoke, he was about to back away, but he closed in again. He held her face in his hands domineeringly and planted a fierce kiss on her lips. This was their exclusive way of sealing a contract. Han Yunqing's entire world lit up. She was no longer cautious and was almost instantly full of vigor. She regained her original carefree and uninhibited nature, daring to love and hate. She pressed Long Fei Ye's face with both hands and began to ask for details. What did your master order you to do previously? I don't remember. Long Fei Yi was telling the truth. How could he remember such a thing? Think about it. Han Yunqing's heart was itching. If she didn't ask clearly, she wouldn't be able to sleep. It's about the same as in that letter. Long Fei Yi really didn't want to think about it. After confirming that he had really forgotten, Han Yunqing was very satisfied. It's good that you've forgotten. After hearing these words, Long Fei Yi suddenly realized that this woman had set a trap for him. If he had really remembered something just now, the consequences would have been very serious. Then how did you reject it? Han Yunqing continued to ask. I obeyed in public but opposed in private. He had never disobeyed any orders in front of his master, but in private, he rarely obeyed orders. For example, when his master ordered him to take care of Duanmu Yao until she turned 18, his care was only to ensure that she didn't die. Didn't Duanmu Yao complain? Han Yunqing was puzzled. Long Fei Yi shook his head. Han Yunqing asked again, why? I don't know. Long Fei Yi was getting impatient. Han Yunqing knew when to stop and didn't pursue the matter. She was more concerned about another matter. Why does Elder Kenzo dote on Duanmu Yao so much? It's not just because of her talent, right? In terms of talent and level of martial arts, Long Fei Yi was miles ahead of Duanmu Yao. Elder Kenzo should dote on Long Fei Yi more. Why would he order Long Fei Yi to serve Duanmu Yao? There must be a secret behind this. There were many things that Long Fei Yi wanted to tell Han Yunqing when they went to Sky Mountain. Now that she had asked, he didn't intend to hide it any longer. He had already steeled his heart to take her to Sky Mountain, so there was nothing to hide. Duanmu Yao's talent is very similar to my late Shirmu's. Shirmu was also Master's disciple. Long Fei Yi sighed. She was Master's first disciple. It's just that this isn't known to the public. Master didn't accept any disciples because of Shirmu's wife. Duanmu Yao and I went to Sky Mountain together. That day, Elder Kenzo was in a good mood because of Duanmu Yao and even accepted me as his disciple. Han Yunqing was very surprised. The outside world had always said that Long Fei Yi and Duanmu Yao were exceptionally talented, so Elder Kenzo made an exception and accepted them as his disciples. She hadn't expected the truth to be like this. In other words, it was all thanks to Duanmu Yao that Long Fei Yi had joined Tianshan Kenzo. Duanmu Yao doesn't know about this herself. Master only told me. This has to do with his reputation. Before Long Fei Yi could finish, Han Yunqing said, "Don't worry, it'll be kept a secret." Although Cloud Realm Continent's culture was more civilized, the world didn't tolerate master and disciple relationships. Elder Kenzo was a man of virtue and prestige, so he would never do something so immoral. Once news of this got out, it wouldn't just destroy Elder Kenzo's reputation, but all of Sky Mountain itself. No one would dare to send their children up the mountain then. Shirmu's wife died from qi deviation due to the reverse flow of true qi. Long Fei Yi said. After Shirmu's wife passed away, Master's hair turned white overnight and he lost his mind. A few years ago, he was still under control, but over the past few years, he's fluctuated between good and bad. When he fell ill, he wouldn't even recognize me, only Duanmu Yao. Han Yunqing was stunned. She knew Long Fei Yi had been hiding something from her about Sky Mountain, but never expected it to be something like this. From what she understood, Elder Kenzo's hair had turned white overnight 30 years ago because of his cultivation. She never expected him to be hurt so tragically because of love. How heartbroken must his heart be if his hair turned white overnight? In a flash, Han Yunqing's anger and complaints towards Elder Kenzo vanished. Long Fei Yi didn't need to explain. She could understand why Elder Kenzo treated Duanmu Yao so well. Does Tsang Qiuzi know about this? Han Yunqing asked. Master treats Duanmu Yao well. He suspected it before, but he doesn't know the truth. Long Fei Yi said. Tang Zijin and Tang Li aren't clear on the matter. Only you, me, and Duanmu Yao know. Once you're on Sky Mountain, pretend you don't know anything. Elder Kenzo wasn't completely insane, but only had occasional relapses. He had once warned him and Duanmu Yao not to tell anyone about this. Long Fei Yi had sent Tang Li to Sky Mountain multiple times to gather information, but he'd only gotten general information. Elder Kenzo's subordinates were all tight-lipped, so it was impossible to find out anything about him. Even Duanmu Yao only knew that the sword sect master had gone mad. As for why he had gone mad, she didn't know the truth. Telling Han Yunqing was an exception. Leaving aside Tsang Qiuzi and the other members of Sky Mountain, Carefree City and the City of Daughters had been restless over the past few years. All sorts of factions were vying for control of Cloud Realm Continent's martial arts circles. Elder Kenzo was the true pillar of Sky Mountain. If anything happened to him, the martial arts circles would fall into chaos. After all, chaos in the martial arts circles would be no less disastrous than a war between nations. Han Yunqing understood and said, "It looks like we'll have to deal with Tsang Qiuzi properly when we get to Sky Mountain this time." With the martial arts circles restless, Sky Mountain couldn't afford to fall into chaos on its own. Long Fei Yi rubbed her nose with a smile. You don't need to worry. Restrain yourself a little when the time comes so you don't anger Master. Don't worry, I'll yield to him. Han Yunqing agreed. She knew it was hard to avoid running into Duanmu Yao then. As long as the girl didn't push things too far, she wouldn't fuss. Han Yunqing hadn't underestimated Duanmu Yao, but Elder Kenzo's ability to spoil people. She'd probably regret it then. Long Fei Yi didn't care about any of that, but a complicated look flickered past his eyes. Dealing with Tsang Qiuzi was secondary to undoing the seal in his body this summer. Should he tell Han Yunqing about this? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.